Hey, everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to get you styled up with Stitch Fix. Shopping's hard. It's hard. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist, though, who understands your style, your size, your budget, and they do all the shopping for you.
Wow.
This is excellent. Shopping, I'm telling you, shopping and figure out your style, it's overwhelming. Let somebody help you when it comes to getting dressed. We don't know what we're doing, so we let Stitch Fix help us out. A Stitch Fix stylist there. They know what works on us. We get the prices that make us look really good, and it feels good. You get some confidence boost walking around knowing that you're looking decent here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we just give the stylist our sizes, style, budget preferences. We order boxes when we want, how we want, no subscription or any of that required. And they send called Just For Me pieces as well. Like, maybe you'd like this, and it's awesome. Outfit recommendations, styling tips. You keep what you love, you send back the rest. It's super easy.
Yep.
You can do it, and we are doing it because it's excellent. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/STM. That's stitchfix.com/STM.
Now back to the show.
Hey, everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you a little bit more about Rocket Money. It's the start of a new year. It's the perfect time to get organized, set your goals, prioritize what matters most. And for me, top priority is getting myself together here. Financial wellness, doing that, which that feels important, you know? Just feels like adult stuff that you have to do. And thanks to Rocket Money, my goals feel achievable now. They show me all my subscriptions in one place, help me easily cancel ones I forgot that I've been paying for, which happened to me. Absolutely happened to me. I had, for years, I was paying for something. I was like, what is going on here? Rocket Money found it and saved me lots of money since then, because it's been a while. So they did a great job here. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/smalltownmurder today. That's rocketmoney.com/smalltownmurder. rocketmoney.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
Hi, I'm Ashley Flowers, and if you're like me and grew up watching America's Most Wanted and reading Nancy Drew, then hi, you're a crime junkie. And I bet that passion for solving mysteries never went away, which is why we've assembled a team of reporters to dig deep into all the cases we still obsess over. Each Monday, my best friend Britt and I will bring you a case that you won't be able to stop thinking and talking about. So join us by listening to Crime Junkie wherever you listen to podcasts.
This week, in Odessa, Texas, a young lady with a flair for the dramatic goes missing, but the story quickly turns into a tale of secrets, darkness, violence, and eventually the possible haunting of a high school. Welcome to Small Town Murder. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Small Town Murder.
Yay!
Oh, yay indeed, Jimmy. Yay indeed. My name is James Pietragallo. I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Jimmie Whisman.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us on another crazy edition of Small Town Murder. This week, another wild story. I don't know what it is, but we have just been digging out the crazy, and it's been coming through out there. Allison, our research person's been doing a kick-ass job in finding stories as well. Yeah, she's good at finding stories, too, so this is awesome. Let's get into this very quickly. Top of the show, shutupandgivememurder.com is where you get everything, anything you want, all your merchandise, things like that. Come join us there. You get all the information about the show. Also, wherever you listen, give 5 stars. It helps a lot, whatever app you're listening on. Helps drive us up the charts. We don't know why that is, but for some reason, the reviews are a big part of it. So thank you for doing that. You definitely want to get on Patreon. Oh, my goodness. Patreon.com/crime and sports is where you get all of the bonus stuff. My goodness, all the bonus material, episodes right now, anybody $5 or above. And that's not going to go up, by the way. People have asked us, hey, things are getting more expensive. Are you going to raise the...
Inflation doesn't affect us.
No.
In fact,
$5. It's always $5. A cup of coffee. Coffee's going to be more expensive and is in some cases, but not Patreon. That's a fact. And what you're going to get is the whole back catalog of bonus episodes. It's like 150 of them. And, of course, every other week you are going to get 2 new episodes, one crime and sports and one small town murder. And this week, what you're going to get for crime and sports, we're going to do something very cool. Kind of like reading a newspaper in 1900 a little bit. We're going to do some sportsy stuff, just a couple of sportsy things. Then we're going to get into these ads from back then, because the funniest thing are a long ad that claims this crazy medical stuff that has been debunked for 100 years now. It's a miracle. It's awesome. So there's a whole bunch of these crazy ads, technology things that are, this is a new thing. It never materialized. Stuff like that. Going to be so fun. Then for Small Town Murder, of course, we're doing this. Have to do it a couple times a year when they end their season. We are going to talk about this season of Love After Lockup. Holy hell is all I have to say to that.
What a season.
You don't even have to have seen the show to enjoy us talking about it. Put it that way, because it's just so crazy. But get all of that and more. Patreon.com/crime and sports. The next one after this will be the prisoner dating game. So
entertainment's what that is.
Buckle up for that. Yeah, it's all sorts of good stuff. That said, time for the disclaimer. This is a comedy show. We are comedians. This is definitely a comedy show, but all the story is real. That's the crazy part. Murder, everything. We don't make anything up for comic effect or any garbage like that. No, this is all real. We wish it wasn't, but it happened. So we're going to talk about it, and jokes are going to happen. But what we do is we keep the jokes to things that should be able to take it. If a police force messes up, lets a murderer go free for 10 years, we'll make fun of them. We'll make fun of a murderer. We'll do that. Yeah. We'll make fun of a small town. Who cares? We're all from someplace terrible. Just embrace it. It's fun stuff. But what we do, or what we don't do, what we go out of our way not to do, is we do not make fun of the victims or the victims' families.
Why is that, James?
Because we're assholes.
But
we're not scumbags. And that sounds good there. If that sounds good to you, excellent. Do you think true crime and comedy should never, ever, ever go together? I don't know. Maybe you're in the wrong place. That's all I have to say to that. Maybe not, though. Give it a shot. No bitching afterwards. That's all I have to say. That said, I think it's time, wherever you are, shout it out your car window. I don't give a shit from your elliptical. Stand on your countertop and scare the hell out of your pets. It's time to shout, Shut up and give me murder.
Let's go.
Let's do this, Jimmie.
Yes, sir.
Let's go on a trip. And we're going to be going down to Texas here pretty soon, actually, for our show in Austin there.
Fuck, man. It's really
coming
up on us.
Yeah, we're coming. But this is Odessa, Texas. And what you're going to think is you're going to go, Odessa, Texas has like 100,000 people in it. That's not a small town. Yeah. It's not, but it is, and sort of still. But when this murder happened, it certainly had that vibe to it. It was a kind of an outpost, much different than it is now.
Where the fuck is it?
West Texas, Southwest Texas, kind of right before that southwestern panhandle there that cuts under New Mexico. There.
So we've for sure driven through it.
No, we drove kind of south of it.
It's inland.
Yeah, it would be inland. It is up there, man. It's the middle of Texas. Just put it that way. It's the middle of nowhere. It's the Amarillo of southern Texas, or central Texas, I guess you could call it. It's about 8 hours to Houston. So that's a drive. 5.5 hours to Austin. So that's even a drive there. And about 4.5 hours to Aledo, Texas, which was our last Texas episode. It was an express episode, and it was Adam Sandler Killed My Family, if you remember that one. That was a crazy episode, so go back and check that out. This is in Ector County, Ector, which just makes me think of Ghostbusters, like Ecto.
Yeah,
so
Ectoplasm.
Ecto Cooler. I just think of that green high C, and I want some.
How crazy is that? We were drinking Ecto Cooler, and isn't the goo that explodes the ectoplasm?
This is the goo from a ghost, and we're like, liquefy it, put it in a can and then let your children drink it happily.
Cannon, put it in my fridge.
I can't wait. The kids are like, Mommy, please, more ghost goo, please. It's green. So the area code 432 motto here. This is a weird motto. I don't know what they're insinuating, but quote, the right place in Texas.
Oh.
As opposed to all those wrong places in Texas.
Right?
Yeah,
that certainly insinuates there's a wrong place.
There's a wrong place. Maybe all of them besides this one. I feel like that's an aggressive motto. Not we're great. It's all of you are pieces of shit is what I feel like that is.
Yeah.
It's a rough one.
It's you, not us.
It's aggressive, yeah. History of this town, very quickly, because there's not a whole lot out here, honestly. It was founded in 1881 as a water stop and cattle shipping point on the railroad. So that's what it was. It was just a stop to, water up the animals.
So you don't die.
Water up the animals, and you can stop where you can load your cattle onto the railroad. That's all it was here.
A stop so that when you get where you're going, everything's not dead.
Yeah, that's all. So things won't die as you ride them,
Because your destination is deathly far.
So your horse won't crumble to the ground because there's nothing for another few hundred miles after this. This is the middle of nowhere.
This state, unbelievable.
I'm telling you, they had a post office in 1885. They didn't incorporate it until 1927 because that's when oil was discovered. So they were like, "Oh, let's go ahead and organize this. We'll take it." Yeah. So they had the Penn oil field in 1929, the Cowden field in 1930. New residents came. This is a boom and bust town. People come when there's like something crazy going on, and then they leave, and then they come again. And it's boomed and busted like 6 times already, this town. But it always...
Doesn't that tell you something about your shit?
Right. It always maintains some level. By 1925, there was 750 people. By 1929, there was 5,000 people.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's all these booms have happened, and 60s and 80s were the big busts. Famous people from Odessa. Roy Orbison is from here.
You're goddamn right he is.
Goddamn straight Roy Orbison is from here. So there you go. And Roy Orbison will come up in this story, by the way.
Of course he does.
One of the people, his uncle has a car wash, and the kid works there, and Roy Orbison comes in like once a week and brings his car in. Yeah, to get his shit washed. So, yeah, Roy Orbison. Reviews of this town. Here we go. 5 stars is the first one.
Yeah.
I love these reviews. These are my favorite. 5 stars. Odessa is a smaller town in Texas, which has recently been expanding very rapidly. It is a safe place and down to earth. All right. It's safe and down to earth. I guess the people are not hoity-toity.
It's not up to Mars.
Yeah. How hoity-toity can you be when there's a dust cloud constantly blowing through? Where you're...
The whole town's real humble. Is that because you guys boom and bust so much?
Yeah.
As soon as shit goes away, everybody fucking leaves?
Nobody out there in their cashmere overcoats in a 112-degree dust storm? That's not happening? Okay. Down to earth. Although there's not much to do, there's always new things to try. If there's not much to do, how is there new things to try?
There's always new things to try.
But nothing to do. That is that's the biggest mind fuck of anything I've ever read in my life. That is not cool.
There's nothing to do here, unless there's a new TikTok trend. We figure that out.
Like if a bunch of 15-year-olds were in a room and stoned and they read that, they'd go, "Whoa, man, holy shit, bro. Wow. Nothing to do but always, wow, how the fuck does that work, man? Well, let's think about it for a while.
I'm going to get that tattooed across my shoulder blades tomorrow."
Someone should get a tattoo of that. It also has some very nice maintained parks to enjoy the outdoors, to enjoy the desert. So there you go. Here's 5 stars. Odessa is a place where MOJO football lives. I don't know what the fuck that is. Mojo football. Mojo football.
Yeah, that's Mojo. That is.
I love everything about this place, and it makes students feel safe and in touch with their society. Long live Mojo football, all capital letters. It's very...
Must be a high school.
This is a strange one. 4 stars. Okay, so everything's pretty good. People smile, then awkwardly look away. Okay.
It's you, bud.
What do you want them to do? Bore into your soul? That's called not wanting to start a fight with someone. You don't stare at people. That's weird. Or not wanting people to think you're a creep.
That tells me something's in your teeth, friend.
Something. Or they just look at you and go, "No, thank you." They're rejecting your presence.
You.
Yeah.
Your face is horrible.
3 stars. What I like about Odessa is that it is semi-normal. All right. Right away.
Nobody sells this place at all.
No, semi-normal isn't exactly. Have you ever seen a marketing campaign for a product where they're like, it's semi-normal with like a fucking guitar riff afterwards? I've never seen that before. Yeah. I would like to see more kindness and friendship than always having to watch your back.
Dude, it's certainly you.
What is happening in this place? What's going on? Is it just a few weird people? Then again, the people that feel the need to leave a review of a town are probably strange people, so maybe that's what it is.
People smile and awkwardly look away, and everybody is attacking me from behind.
Always daggers in my back, man. 2 stars. Odessa is a busy little town. Sadly, due to crimes and drugs, it can be a dangerous place. Right now, nothing much is open due to the pandemic. This was 2021. Yeah. So, yeah, not a quaint little town. More like Murder USA. That's what I'm talking about. Hell yeah. Man. Fuck yeah. Murder USA, baby. That's what I mean. That's a big difference from the other place that said it's how safe it is and down to earth. These people, Murder USA.
Detroit, Texas.
Holy shit. 2 stars. This is my favorite review ever. People die here. People die every day here. That can be said for literally every place on earth. Every place. People die every day, everywhere. That's awesome. And the car accidents are horrible. Well, yes, car accidents are terrible. No one likes car accidents. Here we go. Now, finally, 1 star. Run for your life, essentially, is this review here. If you ever wanted to see what it's like to drive in a Mad Max movie, here's your chance! Exclamation point. In other words, I think it's just crazy and chaos. It's a cross between monster truck madness and hotshot truck domination, and anything goes.
That sounds like a movie tagline. That's
I think
beautiful.
so. I think that's why the car accidents are so horrible, because it's this. Pieces.
Giant trucks.
Oh, my God. Pieces of people's dogs and cats can be found in the morning. Oh, my God.
They're exploding
Jesus
around here.
Christ, that's how bad people drive. It causes cats to explode. So, population of this town here is right now it's 125,000. But back when we were talking about, it's somewhere between 30 and 80,000. We're not sure at the time, which is weird because in 10 years it went up 50,000 people. So.
Is that right?
It just exploded. The 50s was a big boom, and then the 60s was a bust.
Lot, Roy.
That's what happens, man. The 60s were a bust, so Roy killed it, maybe.
Oh, yeah, he did. Good for him. He crushed the growth on purpose.
Few more males than females here, actually, because there's a lot of like oil jobs, so that's going to attract people there. Median age is about 30, which is less than the normal, which is 37. Otherwise, things are pretty standard, 51% married, that sort of thing, nothing crazy there. Race of this town, 35.8% white, 4.9% black, 1.6% Asian, 55.8% Hispanic here.
Is that right?
But that means nothing for when we were. When we were here, it's pretty much all white at the time. You can flip the Hispanic and white 10 year in 2010. So it just people moved and came, and it just it shifted in the last 15 years or so. So religion in this town, 54% are religious, which is honestly less than I thought, to be honest with you. 19.7% Baptist, coming in at a close second, 16.3% Catholic. So it's close though. It's very very close. They're fighting for West Texas supremacy over here. In Ector County, in the last election, 25.5% of the people voted for Democratic and 73.3% Republican, and the rest 1.2% independent. The economy here, high unemployment rate right now.
Really?
They're going through a bit of a dip, 9.9% unemployment, which is way higher than the national average, like double. The median household income here, though, is $56,119, which is right about the national average. So a lot of times these oil jobs, they pay well because they're dangerous.
They sure do.
And they're outdoors and dirty, and they're not nothing you'd want to do, so you got to pay someone $40 an hour to do it,
That explains 30-year-old men being the dominant population here.
Exactly. That totally tracks. So cost of living here, 100 is regular or average. Here it is 84.2. So a little bit low. Housing is a 60 out of 100.
Hey!
Median home cost $175,200. So not too bad at all, actually.
$200,000.
Yeah, that's not bad. And if we've convinced you, damn it, that there's no other place on God's green or dusty brown, in this case, earth, we have for you the Odessa, Texas Real Estate Report. Two-bedroom rentals here, your average goes for about $1,264, which is right around the national average. Yeah, so that's odd for a place where houses are so cheap. That's probably because people come in and out, temporary jobs, rentals are more desirable.
Workforce,
I found here we got a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. This house, it can't be this big, but the listing says 7,405 square feet.
That must be the whole complex.
It's probably the lot. I'm not sure, but it looks like shit. In the pictures, they couldn't even have cleaned it up for the real estate pictures. Like all the windows have blankets on them, not curtains.
What?
Yeah. When people are just using blankets, I'm not talking about that one window where the dog ripped the blinds down. It's in the back and you haven't had a chance to change it. We all have one of those.
It's every window.
I'm talking about your front fucking windows are different blankets too. Not even uniform blankets. Different blankets. Your life is not together. I'm sorry.
Are they like the blankets that you bought on the street corner, like a howling wolf and
one's like a Dora the Explorer, and then one's like just a red one, and then one's like it's just mix and match, dude. It's a shithole. It looks terrible. $45,000 even though for it. So I guess that's why. There you go.
Every penny.
Here's one here: 4-bedroom, 4-bath, T-bowl for each and every detail. 3,729 square feet. It's the weirdest looking house ever. It looks like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It looks like his house, but way douchier. Like if you updated that, if someone wanted to build a modern version of that house, that's what it looks like. A lot of frosted glass and
what is that?
Weird touches. It's very, very weird. It's not good at all. Don't like it. $545,000 for this weird house.
Okay.
It's even weird, like the shape of it's weird. It's long. It's like a raised ranch, but it's got a big point. It's very strange.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's the King Ranch.
It's weird.
Those ranch houses love to have a real long house with one big
point. Yeah.
So you've got two long slopes.
Yeah,
I don't know why they did that.
What it is. Here's a 5-bedroom, 7-bath. A couple of more T-balls for your B-holes there. 11,300 square feet. It's huge. It's a big, dull house. There's nothing like you wouldn't go, oh, wow, that one room they made is cooler. It's got a basketball court over there. If you have 11,000 square feet, have some fun. Fuck around a little bit. You know what I mean?
Play a bit.
Put something weird in there and nothing. It's just a very plain, boring house. $2 million. Yeah, $2,565,000 for that, though.
Very affordable.
If you're in the market for a $2.5 million house, I guess you could consider it affordable, but otherwise, it's pricey.
If you can afford a $2 million house, getting almost 12,000 square feet for $2 million, that's incredible.
Except that it's in the middle of nowhere. That's the other problem here. So
it is in Odessa, Texas.
Yeah, that's an issue. Things to do here. Now, number one, the University of Texas at Permian Basin, I think it's called, has a replica of Stonehenge. They made Stonehenge there. Some college, some state college in the middle of out here somewhere.
Why?
I don't know why. It's not like Stonehenge does not exist anymore, so we're going to there is a Stonehenge. So
it's for those who can't afford to get there?
I suppose. There are pictures, but still, I guess it's there. You can look at it, and there's Stonehenge.
But we don't know why that's there. Why would
We're still trying to figure that out. Well, we know who put the ones in Texas, though. Those are not a mystery. There's a bunch of college kids did that, but the other ones we're not sure about. There's also the Permian Basin Fair.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to read from their website here. Yeah. The Midway, the rides, the musicians and entertainers, the daredevils. You'll find them all at the 2022 Permian Basin Fair and Exposition. So are you excited yet, Jimmy?
Yeah, I'm losing it.
Your chair soaked or what? What do we got here? You sitting in a puddle? What are we doing?
In shit. I just shit my pants.
I bet you that's what I mean. I bet your whole body gave out. Every function you have just let loose at one point.
I came and shit twice.
It was wild. Didn't you hear me sneezing? featuring rides, games, and good, clean fun.
Oh.
Good, clean fun, everybody.
When have you gone to the fair and had that filthy fun?
That's what I mean. These goddamn filthy fairs I go to with their porn expositions. That's every time I go in there. It's like, oh, they're having the Bukkake exposition today. Of course I chose to bring my kids to the day where it's Bukkake Expo 2022. Thanks a lot. Fair.
We just came to 2021 on accident, and now we do it again.
Now I'm doing this. Great. Thanks a lot. Thanks. Now I'm taking my kids home. Yeah, get a corn dog and we're leaving, kids. So then there's the great musical performers playing country, rock, and everything in between. They're so great, we won't even name them. That's what it says to me, basically. So great, none of them are a draw.
There's nothing in between country and rock.
Nothing. It's what is in there. Live music, kids celebration, the Paul Bunyan Lumberjack Show.
Hey!
That's porn, right? It has to be, I'm sure. The Texan Petting Zoo, which means you pet it and then kill it, probably. You pet it, then shoot it in the head and put it directly onto a grill. I believe it's a Texan petting zoo, right? Isn't that how that works? Who wants barbecue sauce? That's it. It's over.
Pet the cow that has the sign that is its name of the way you want it prepared.
That's right.
I'll pet medium rare.
Oh, hello, medium rare. He's adorable. Also, Pirates of the Sky. I assume it's some sort of air show. Battle of the Basin cheerleading. So it sounds like a battle of the cheerleader things.
Stupid.
Little Miss Permian Basin Fair. A talent show. Garden tractor pulls, a dog extravaganza.
Yes!
That sounds awesome. I don't know what it is, but
I'll go to that.
A lot of dogs. I feel like you could pet some dogs there.
The kid that
like
loses the Little Miss Basin
they put her,
show, she's in that.
She's the automatic front runner in the dog extravaganza. That's Texas stuff.
Lose.
That's not us. That's Texas. That's what it works. Permian Basin oil draws.
Oh,
Who wants to yank some oil out the earth? Come on now. Plenty of it. Comanche Moon Fast Draw.
Oh.
Comanche Moon Fast Draw. So I think that's like drawing guns, like a cowboy style.
Of course it is.
Praise and Worship Night. You got to have that after your fast draw competition. Then the Cattle Dog Trials. And then finally the main event, the team roping, of course. So that's quite the fair right there. I'll tell you what.
It's all rodeo, a little bit of music, and shitloads more animals, and then we'll judge how pretty your daughter is.
That's it. And then they're all going to leer at your little girl. All right, then. Crime rate in this town, property crime is high. It's about 1/3 above the national average. So it's a little bit high. And then crime rate also for violent crime, Jesus, the Mount Rushmore of crime, murder, rape, robbery, and, of course, assault, that's more than double the national average. So,
oh, shit.
Yeah, there's some shit going on there. Now, you can take all of that and scrub it all away because we're going back in time a little bit here.
Okay.
So none of that shit matters. It's a totally different time, a totally different place. I'm trying to think of because the time we're going to go back to is 1960, which is a long time for us. We usually don't go back that far. So 1960 we're going to go back to, which is interesting to me, and especially for Texas. So this is very much like Greece, but in Texas. So you're going to have your, imagine that scene, okay? A lot of Letterman jackets and things like that and flat tops and, you can picture it.
Throw a cowboy hat on Zuko.
Exactly. Throw a cowboy hat and a belt buckle on Danny Zuko, and you got something here. Imagine Kanicki with a pickup truck instead of that white piece of shit that he had there instead of Grease Lightning. Just picture him with like a Ford, like a 58 Ford or something instead. Well, the one kid had, because I'm thinking of like Dazed and Confused. That was this area, but that was supposed to be like 15 years later when the 70s had crept in. But there was still a lot of that Texas, football and all that kind of thing. And that's kind of part of our story here. Two books that we checked out this week, or one's an article actually, and one's a book. The article is called A Kiss Before Dying. They had some very good information there by Pamela Coliff. It was in Texas Monthly that published it. And then there is a book called Washed in Blood by Shelton Williams.
Jesus, Shelton.
So Shelley Williams, that's his name that he goes by.
What?
Shelley Williams. That's what his family calls him. Basically, he is one of our participants in this week's story. It's her cousin. So he wrote a book about the whole thing, too, and gives some good insight. So
his cousin was involved in it.
Yeah, we'll talk about how. Now, this whole thing, this would cause basically teen rituals in the area to be altered, and for weird reasons and other reasons, and it would spur very particular ghost and haunting stories for the next forever. Basically. So
amazing.
It's incredible. The story is fucking wild. Buckle up. All right, here we go. 1960. Let's get into it. Let's talk about a murder. Sorry. There we go. I had to say that. Let's do this. Okay. 1960. We have to talk about Elizabeth Jean Williams. She goes by Betty.
Shelley's cousin.
Shelley's cousin, Betty. Yeah. Exactly. I guess her family calls her Betty Jean. So a lot of people call it Betty Jean, which in Texas you have to have two names. Betty's plenty of a first name. You know what I mean? It's 2 syllables.
Sure is. Yeah.
It's a fine, solid. You're not Jimmie Ellis. You know what I mean? Because Jimmie is 2 syllables. It's plenty.
It's plenty.
Yeah.
It's all you need.
It's all you need. So either way.
Betty was enough for was it Jughead dated her? Or she was in the Archie comics.
Yeah,
yeah.
Betty. Betty Rubble.
She was plenty for Mr. Rubble. There's been plenty of Bettys. We don't need to
Betty
specify.
Draper.
Yeah.
From Mad Men. We've had lots of from this time. Betty is a very popular name this time, too.
Sure is.
And we had the other Texas case, which is one of our favorite episodes of all time, with Betty Lou Beets, who killed 4 of her husbands, which was a crazy story we did back in that episode in the 60s, early.
You said 19. Well, we did in like 1984.
Yeah, no, not that long. Not for us,
We've been
but
doing
for them.
this forever.
Forever, yeah. We've been around. So we're both 78 years old, the two of us. Yeah. It's wild. So 1960, Betty Williams. She's 17 years old Betty Jean. And she kind of lives in a small house. Her family doesn't have a lot of money. She's kind of from the, I guess you would call it the trashier side of town type of thing.
Yeah.
Like she would be considered not one of like the cool rich kids. She's
I like her already.
A little bit. You're gonna. This girl in high school. If I knew this girl, I would have totally went out with this girl in high school.
Chase the shit out of her.
Yeah, she's cool as shit when we talk about her.
She'd have told me no so many times.
She lives in kind of a small, shitty house. The street she lives on isn't paved. It's on the west edge of town. Some of this takes place in a place called No Trees, Texas. One word, no trees. No shit. One word, no trees, and there are no trees, and there are currently 73 people there. So we could have technically...
trees, no spaces.
Yeah, we could have technically done the show about no trees, but it would have really been a short town segment. Here it is. There's nobody there. Look out for the dust. Okay, moving on. Here's a murder.
No houses, no trees.
No trees, no house. Could be called no people. It's just... there's nothing. So this is on the west edge of town near the oil fields she lives. So this is obviously not the most desirable place. I assume if you're wealthy, you're going to live as far from the oil fields as possible, probably.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
I want to watch a Derrick working
while
I try to make dinner.
Ka-cling every fucking 2 seconds for the rest of your life. So there's like gas flares burning all the time. Like it's a terrifying sight to look out upon here. So that's going on. Now, her father's a carpenter, and he has difficulty getting and keeping steady work. So that's obviously an issue as well. Her mother, Mary, took a job at J.C. Penney to try to piece together a living. Yeah. So they're lower middle class, definitely here. So like this girl, I would have fit in great with this girl. We'd
relate.
We'd relate totally, and even more as we get into it. Her family, very Baptist, strict Baptists, her family. Yeah, that's what we said. Baptist or Catholic here. If you're white, you're Baptist. If you're Mexican, you're a Catholic, and that's how it works in this town.
You betcha.
So her father would preach to Betty all the time about sin, and you're going to damnation and hellfire and brimstone, and I mean it's real Revelations type shit. I don't know if that's what they preach, but it's really, fiery.
Think he became a carpenter because that's what JC was?
I think so. He's like, listen, if it's good enough for the man, it's good enough for me. That's all I'm saying. So
good enough for the man, it's good enough for this man.
For this man right here. If it's good enough for him,
it's
certainly good enough for this guy. So basically he would pray that she would be a more obedient daughter, because she's not obedient. She's kind of she's into her own thing mentally, as we'll talk about. Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you about the safest sponsor ever, Simply Safe. Absolutely, these people will keep you safe. It's amazing. You know that every 26 seconds a burglary takes place in the United States, according to the FBI. That means that by the time this podcast is over, dozens and dozens of homes will have been targeted, ransacked. God knows what happens here. So protect your home before it's too late with Simply Safe proactive security system. Simply Safe helps stop threats before they even have a chance to break in. Named Best Home Security System by U.S. News and World Report 5 years in a row. And by us for about the last 8 years as well. If you trust us, believe me, you want Simply Safe. So visit simplysafe.com/small to claim 50% off a new system with professional monitoring plan and your first month free. That's simplysafe.com/small. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Now back to the show.
Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you a little bit about Sono Bello. You know, the most known secret with celebrities and influencers and all these famous people is so many of them have had lipo. They've had lipo, whether it's a little touch-up here or a total makeover.
Yeah.
Nobody has a perfect body. That's the thing.
No.
They may look like it on TV, but there's things that help that. Absolutely. Lipo now has changed, and Sono Bello's been at the forefront with using LAL technology and getting those beautiful and natural outcomes for each person. Looking real natural. Our friends at Sono Bello are offering their best deal. You're now included in their winter savings event, but appointments are limited, so please get on this. Sono Bello doctors are masters in micro-laser fat removal, a brilliant technique that removes stubborn fat permanently. Wherever your problem areas are, tummy, love handles, thighs, arms, it's gone in one comfortable visit. Eating healthy and workouts are great. Keep doing that, but if you want to lose that stubborn fat in one visit, check out Sono Bello. Save big during their winter savings event. Schedule your free consultation now at sonobello.com/smalltownmurder. That's sonobello.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
She is kind of dark blonde, like dirty blonde hair, shoulder length, blue eyes, that sort of thing. Attractive, but she's not anything that is like, cars don't screech to a halt and the boys don't hang out of car windows to, catcall her and all that kind of shit. But she's a pretty girl, pretty enough, fine, doing her thing. So she did not like conformity. And if you don't like conformity, West Texas in 1960 is a terrible place for you.
Yeah, you're rebellious?
Awful. It's a bad place for you now. Never mind in 1960. 1960, it was, unless you're in Greenwich Village, there wasn't a whole lot of places to not be a conformist, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or at a Hell's Angels party in San Francisco or something. Right. There wasn't a lot of nonconformity going on. So she didn't like conformity, though, and really didn't like the kind of the preppy girls in school. You know what I mean? Picture Breakfast Club Ali Sheedy. Like she doesn't like the preppy girls, the girls who are really, put together, richer, have their matching sweater sets and all that kind of shit.
Constance Fries.
Yeah, exactly. Constance Fry. She doesn't like those. She thinks of herself as kind of smarter than those and that sort of thing. She's got opinions on everything. Awesome. She's worldly. She reads stuff. She knows way more about the outside world and kind of like culture-y type stuff than most kids in West Texas in 1960. That's what she's into. In her mind, she doesn't live in. She's already moved away. Like she's gone.
She's
in her mind.
Out of this place.
Yeah. She did not like it. She's always, by the way, prodigious note writer, constantly writing notes. She keeps a diary. She writes just like essays and things for herself. She writes notes to classmates constantly. Oh. Like if she's in study hall, she'll have distributed a dozen notes by the end of study hall to all of her friends in class. Like loves to write notes, which back then girls wrote notes. Even when we were in school.
Oh my God. 80s and 90s, that's all it was.
If you had a girlfriend in high school, by the end of the day, you had like 14 notes in your backpack because every time you'd see them in between periods, they give you another fucking 3 notes. You'd be like, how do I open this one?
Right.
They were incredible.
Some crazy origami shit.
Oh, God.
It's got like fucking diamonds and hearts on the front. How did you do this? How do I open it? I got to tear it and tape it back together to read it.
That's the thing. I'm tearing it open, and then it's a mess, and I'm like, how do I refold this? I can't refold this. And how did she learn to do this? This is crazy. So that's kind of what she's all about. She read Jack Kerouac's On the Road, which is a big deal back then, and for the beat generation and the whole kind of the hipster thing from that time period was Jack Kerouac was the fucking king of that. Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, those were the two kings of that hipster beat era, the beatnik thing, they were celebrities in that world. So, and it really, I mean, Jack Kerouac's book went beyond that, but at the time that was for fucking people in Greenwich Village to sit around and read. That wasn't for kids in West Texas. Yeah. But that's why books are cool, because somebody in West Texas can relate to something that's not happening where they are. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or wherever you are. It doesn't have to be West Texas. Me reading something sitting in Poughkeepsie, New York when I'm a kid, or wherever, doesn't matter. So she also bought and listened to religiously records of Lenny Bruce as well. She loves Lenny Bruce.
Is that right?
She's a big Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, Lenny Bruce fan. I'm like, this girl is a fucking beatnik. Like, that's what she is. She's just a straight beatnik. It's funny as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does she smoke cigarettes?
I would assume she's probably
she's got to, right?
Got to smoke cigarettes there. She was all into that. So she was considering herself above kind of the intellectually above, like the, where's the party after the football game crowd.
Yeah.
Not that she was, but in her mind, she felt like she was. And that could be a defense mechanism that a lot of kids who feel rejected will turn to that sort of thing. And you never know. Or she just felt it in her heart. Who knows? We don't know.
Or she has some disappointment in where her family's at. Like, we're capable of much better than this. Or there's all kinds of thoughts that go through a kid's head.
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah. She liked to draw attention to herself and kind of tweak the squares a little bit was her kind of a thing that she liked to do. She would show up at Tommy's Drive-In. Tommy's Drive-In is where all the teenagers went in town. The hamburger joint. Yeah, and Dazed and Confused, it's where they would all meet and then go drive around. It's that place. So they'd all meet there, and kids would go. She'd show up. She'd be dressed in total black, which kids didn't do back then.
Yeah, in the 60s? Who's she? Wednesday
1960 we're talking about. Yeah. This is 1959, 60. This is at the end of Grease, it's a big deal because Sandy is wearing that all-black outfit, and it's like 1959. We're like, oh, she's like badass now.
The fuck is that, leather?
That's what she shows up as, though. She shows up there wearing white lips, but wearing a white lipstick or... so she'd all black with white lipstick is how she would do it. Yeah, to look different. Or she'd show up in jeans and a T-shirt, and she'd wear like a tight T-shirt and no bra, which was all the other girls had like the sweaters and literally poodle skirts and like all this shit, and she's showing up in a tight T-shirt with her nips popping.
Fuck yeah.
What's up? You hear that new Lenny Bruce fucking joke, and you're like, this fucking girl is awesome. Sorry.
Hear about Lenny getting arrested? Check out these nipples.
That's badass. She would freely express opinions as well, too. She thought it was she didn't like segregation, and she'd tell the other kids, and a lot of the other kids were like, fuck you. What are you talking about? So she'd get in arguments over that. She it's so weird. People thought she was an oddball, basically. She wrote one of her friends during her senior year that most people do not understand me. There are people willing to be my friends, but mostly they're either too ignorant to understand why I'm like I am and consequently offer my mind no challenge, or they haven't the wits to match mine. That's a 17-year-old girl.
I got a feeling I couldn't do it today.
The look on Jimmie's face as I'm 4 feet from him, and the look on his face as I'm reading this, he was going, "Oh, I don't think she would have liked me anymore." Like,
I'm already intimidated. I can't talk to that girl. If she said that out loud, I'd have to walk away and try to make the math addition of how that sentence computes and what sense it makes.
Jimmie would go back to, hold on a sec. So there's nothing to do, but there's always new things to try. I'm still stuck on that. Jesus Christ.
Can you give me a thesaurus? I don't know what she just said.
What is she talking about? Yeah, that's Jimmie would be like, I have to pee now, and he'd just leave and never come back. So she said that also, this is a note to one of her friends, quote, I'm realizing once again, as I have realized so many times before, that in some ways, not completely obvious to me, I am different from other people. Most people don't understand me. There are people who are willing to be my friends. That's the beginning of that one. So, yeah there you go.
She's 17?
17 years old when she's writing all this, and a high school, going into her senior year of high school. So,
my God.
Summer of 1960, this is between her junior and senior year of high school. She starts hanging out with a boy here who is also 17. He is between his sophomore and junior year, though, of high school. So birthdays fall in different places. His name is... This is the most West Texas. We got Betty Williams, which is very West, and now we have Mac Herring is his name. Mac Herring sounds like a made-up kid from Mac Herring plays fullback on the football team. You know what I mean? Like Mac Herring. And he was on the football team as well, too. He's your typical flat-top Letterman jacket, 1960 West Texas. Go along and get along.
Probably named after the trucks.
Possibly named after the trucks. Absolutely here. He's not a big star on the football team by any means. He's kind of he's a running back, and he's kind of just average abilities. He's very, very well liked, though, which will help you on a football team. Yeah. So he's not a starter. He's like a backup and all that sort of thing. He was on junior varsity, and then in his junior year he went to varsity. And so football is like religion in West Texas. It's just huge there. High school football is the biggest thing in the world. You know what I mean? It's huge. I mean, this is 1960. This is when the Dallas Cowboys weren't even a team yet. They were just, they were starting as the Dallas Texans at that point, and then would later on, but they weren't even a fucking team yet. That's how long ago this was, you know what I'm saying? So it's a while ago. So, or no, that was the one that went to Kansas City eventually. Never mind. The Cowboys popped up in there. There was two different. There was the Cowboys. 1960, I think, was their first year, or 61.
The Texans moved to be the Chiefs?
The Texans eventually became the Chiefs, because that was Lamar Hunt's team. Because they ended up he folded that and then started the AFL. So there you go. Okay, that has nothing to do with this. That was a football sidetrack, but Mac Herring, though, only basically plays football because that's what you do. He doesn't really care about it that much. He's more into like hunting and fishing and just kind of that sort of stuff. Good-looking guy, tall guy. Everybody likes him. Everybody thinks he's a man's man and just a good kind of fella. You know what I mean? Real solid. His dad is a World War II veteran who owns an electrical contracting business. Okay. So they have decent money. His mom's a housewife, homemaker, and very middle class and all that sort of thing. He has no trouble meeting girls, no trouble, getting dates. Everything's fine with Mac. He's doing great. Loves to hunt, though. That's his favorite thing he likes to do. Like a lot of the people in Texas, hunting, especially back then, it was a lot of sparse land. Hunting was very popular of a pastime. He would like to go out and shoot, like they'd go hunting for dove or quail mostly. That's what they were looking for. And he'd go there, or he'd go with his .22 and shoot jackrabbits too. He'd like that. So that's what he does. Doesn't hunt anything big or anything like that. One of his friends, Larry Francel, who grew up right by him, he said if Mac wounded an animal when we went hunting, he would pursue it and dispatch it. A lot of kids were cruel. They would shoot something and watch it hobble off, but Mac was different. He didn't like to see things suffer. If he was going out there to hunt, he was going to kill.
Is that?
Yeah, not a lot to do, but everything to try is what that is. I am perplexed by this Texas speak that's been happening so far, and I love it, but I'm really perplexed by it. Yeah.
Hey, imagine that's a compliment of you. And
that's a huge compliment.
Imagine the fucking psychopath that goes out there to shoot an animal and goes, look at it hop.
Watch it suffer. That's crazy. And he said that was the standard procedure.
Holy shit.
Which is creepy shit.
They're full of those psychos. And then you've also got this guy who just loves murder and
He's
shit.
going to go out and put it right out of its. He likes to see the light go out its eyes. See, that's the difference. The other ones, they like to watch it suffer. He wants to see that light just leave its eyes, you know. And he wants to be the last image in this little animal's eyes. That's what he wants.
And if you're going out to hunt, look,
He
no
holds
judgment.
him by the
I
chin
understand.
and looks him in the eyes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
I understand there are people that do it for fun, whatever. But
Yeah.
if you're doing it
Fine.
to eat, I get it. But like
Totally.
that. I don't want I don't want anybody to ever say what you just said about me. Either of those things.
That's fucking funny, man.
That sounds terrible.
That sounds terrible. Yeah, I guess it does. But I think people eat quail a lot, though, too.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Quail is a very popular dish. So,
But there's nothing on it, James.
no, you got to have a.
You really got to shoot a shitload of
You gotta
those
get
to
a
make
bunch
a
of
meal.
quail. You gotta get like a garbage bag full of them, or else it's not gonna work. You need like a whole big, like a sack of quail, or else you're really in for a slim evening.
Can't really make buffalo wings out of quail.
No.
That's a tiny. That's more of a fucking appetizer.
They're tiny little fuckers. So I think they might be bigger in certain places. I don't know.
No,
Who knows?
they're not.
No, they're not bigger.
Those things are tiny.
I've seen them in Arizona. They're in the desert. They're not that big.
There's no pheasant-sized quail.
No, probably not. Is that a condor or a quail? I never said that. So, one of Mac Herring's teachers here, this is Mrs. Bessie W. Stanley. She's a
Bessie.
She's a 40-year teacher. She's been around. She's been teaching since 1920. Think about that.
My God.
Holy shit. She was Herring's private tutor for more than a year. So the parents even had money to hire her on the side.
Yeah.
She said, quote, "I've never known a more brilliant mind." As Max. Than Mac. She said that in school he took an IQ test in February of 1960 and scored a 128 on it. And that's good. 140 is genius. 128 is pretty damn smart. So she said, let's put it this way. He was in the top 1% and 99% make a lower score. She said that another school's test designed to give an overall picture of a student's development was also given to him in 1960, and he placed in the top 92 percentile in that test.
Yeah.
So he's one of the better kids, basically. One of the smarter kids. He's a handsome guy. They said he also had about an 85 average in all of his grades as well at school.
He's doing great.
So doing fine, basically. Doing fine. He was described by another teacher as an above-average boy all around. Above average. You should have seen his penis. It was wonderful. Very much above average. Above average boy. So he, his football coach, Lacey Turner, he was the coach at the time, he said that he would pick Herring out of a squad of 33 boys as one of the leaders of the team. He said, quote, "He was one of the best, well-adjusted individuals that we had on the squad." So there you
Captain.
go. A captain material. That's exactly right here. So a lot of people here. He dates a lot of people, and he has a lot of girlfriends. And back then, dating is kind of casual unless you were like going steady. Otherwise, you'd go out with different people on a Friday and a Saturday night, and then until you went steady, you just have a lot of dates. That's how it worked back then.
So weird.
So and eventually Betty and Mac end up hooking up together here, which they don't. Do they sound like a couple that goes together, really? He's the exact guy that she would probably say she doesn't like.
He might be being that he's smart, he might be the only guy that she can have a conversation with.
That's a thing, too. And he also, he's not as much into all the football and parties and all that.
But he understands it.
Yeah, but he understands it and he goes along with it. But he's more of the, he'd rather kind of hang out alone with a couple of friends type of guy and maybe go hunting. And he's that kind of guy. He's like the main character in Dazed and Confused that didn't know if he was going to sign the sheet and play football next year. What's his name? Jay London? Is that who it was? I don't remember. Either way. Doesn't matter.
I can barely remember your name.
Yeah, that's true. You spell it, though, somehow. That's impressive. I've seen you do it before. So Mac is one of the popular kids. Yeah. He's Emilio Estevez in the Breakfast Club. And then Ali Sheedy is Betty, basically. Okay, so that's how you got to look at it. And I know I've given a lot of like similes and metaphors here with these movies, but I'm trying to put it into perspective. Sorry about that. I'm thinking whatever era I can match it to, like I'll match it to that.
Yeah.
So they end up getting into a friendship, and Betty thought that he was kind of, a different kind of guy. He was more sensitive than the other boys. She thought there was something romantic about him and that he was that's hiding under the surface. And she had like a whole, he's a boy that's different than everyone else too, and we can get together here. So they start dating in the summer of 1960, and she was starting to fall in love with Mac here. She told her friends that he really listened to her. He's the first guy that actually really listens to me. Like, hears
Maybe
me.
he's the only one that understands what the fuck you're saying.
Maybe that's what it is. So, but Mac wasn't parading her around like, here's my best girl. This was he kind of kept it under the radar. He wouldn't he'd hang out at people's houses with her, but they didn't go to big parties. He never gave her his Letterman jacket, which was a big deal back then. He never even brought her home to meet his parents, which is no Letterman jacket, no parents means you're not his girlfriend. You know what I mean? That means whatever's going on, he's not wanting to publicly commit to you for whatever reason. That's how that works back then. You're not steady. That means steady is you get the jacket, you meet the parents, you guys are a couple.
Maybe he just likes the nipples?
I don't know what it is. Well, he likes her, but we'll talk about it. Let's hear some from her cousin here. Now, her cousin Shelton Williams that wrote this book. I'm going to just read right from the book because it's fucking wild, some of the shit in this book, man. Okay. Quote, at Christmas and Thanksgiving, Betty and I always bolted down our food. Bolted down, I've never heard. Bolted would mean to keep it on the table.
Right.
Scarfed would be
to keep your family from eating it.
Yeah, exactly. And I always bolted down our food and then went out to a car to sit and talk. We discussed our fathers, religion, movies, how much she hated football, and eventually sex.
He tolerated the conversation.
She started having sexual experiences long before I did. She was so bright and natural discussing sex, it almost seemed to be okay to do so. Because, this is not like open sex talk back then in 1960 Texas and in a Baptist community. This is not, hey, everybody, let's talk about our vaginas. That didn't go on here. So he said, oh, my God, we would sit close on these occasions, and sometimes I would get hard. She would move her leg. Oh, my God. She would move her leg, or if my penis... on my penis if it got uncomfortable for her, but she seemed fine with it.
She would throw a leg over it so she didn't have to look at it?
I guess. She showed me how to kiss and then had a French kiss.
Max said this?
No, this is her cousin.
What?
This is Shelley's book. At Thanksgiving and Christmas, they would have family dinner, then go out in the car and sit there. We're going to go outside and talk. The kids are going to hang out. And they'd go in the car, and his dick would get hard when she would talk about sexual things, and then she would rub her leg on his dick, and then they would fucking make out.
Oh, my God.
That's what he just said. She showed me how to kiss and then had a French kiss. That's so out there, it didn't register for you. They're like, that can't be your cousin, right?
I thought you were saying
no.
Mac told him this.
No.
Oh, my God.
This is absolutely from his book.
She is too much of a party for me.
We didn't make out like boyfriend and girlfriend, but sometimes the practice went on a bit longer than it should.
Wow.
This went on for years, and even after she started screwing guys. Get your thesaurus out, Chief. Come on. That's the word you chose?
She would be very disappointed in you for this.
It never went further than a few kisses. We were kissing cousins, and sometimes she would tell girlfriends that I was her kissin' cuz.
Oh, my God.
Okay. This is another description. This is Shelton. This is her cousin. Not somebody telling her cousin anything. This is his fucking brain pouring this out on paper. Okay. Quote, the first time I ever realized that Betty had become a woman, we were inside Tommy's, that's the drive-in there, Tommy's dining room, but not together. I was in the far corner of the room watching two OHS, that's Odessa High School guys, play chess, a game I have never mastered. And Betty had her back turned to everyone in the place. She had both hands on the jukebox, her knees were slightly bent, and she was moving to the beat of Little Bitty Pretty One. Little Bitty Pretty One. It's a good song. Her head and her butt kept time to the music while her feet remained virtually stationary. So she's shaking her ass for the whole diner.
And he is staring at
Yeah,
his
he's
cousin.
like, she's a woman, man. My cousin's a woman. He goes on. Do you think that's enough, probably?
God.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
Her blue jeans were tight. Her white T-shirt did not conceal the fact that she wore no bra, and she was wearing no shoes. Well, that's weird. You'd think that she would have shoes on, being that it's in a restaurant.
Yeah.
But if you walk in with no bra, you don't have to really wear anything else, probably. You could. No one's going to notice your shoe, what's on the floor, if they're looking at your nipples.
No problem.
No shirt, no shoes, no service, no bra, no problem. That's the sign that should be up in every place in the 50s and 60s. Eventually, every boy in the room began staring at her. Several girls with either ponytails or Doris Day bubble cuts walked in, glanced disgustedly at her, and quickly diverted their eyes. Betty was breaking any number of rules that hot summer afternoon, the most egregious of which was that basically girls don't hang out at Tommy's by themselves. You come there with a date.
Well,
You don't
that
go-
and also arousing your cousin in public.
Well, I think that's more on him, though. That's not on her.
You might be right.
That's more on him. If his dick's getting hard, maybe stop looking at your cousin's ass. That's what I'm saying. That's his problem. But back then, she wasn't. The other girls didn't show up with no bra by themselves and shake their ass at the jukebox forever. That didn't.
Right.
Nobody else did that. So
To little bitty pretty one.
little bit pretty one. That's right. So here we go. This is from his book again, Shelton. He talks about how this is a quote. He quotes her here. Quote. She says, quote, "Life is beautiful, Shell. Someday we're going to get out of this town. I am definitely going to be an actress. Can't you see me on the Jack Parr show?" And then she said, "Oh, did you see Jonathan Winters there last night? He had these little green men from Mars routine. He's crazy too, you know."
He's so funny.
She's fucking awesome. Jack Parr that's the Tonight Show. That's what if you're young, you might not know what the Tonight Show is anymore because at this point it's just clips of Jimmy Fallon acting like a moron and lip syncing and shit. But at one point in time,
Of Jimmy Fallon trying to convince us all he's not a drunk.
yeah, I swear to God. But at one point in time, the Tonight Show was a cultural touchstone. It was the show, and back
everything.
then, this is the beginning of the Tonight Show. I think it started in 55 or 6 with Steve Allen. Then Jack Parr took over. So, and then Johnny Carson was mid 60s. He took over. So there you go. And then to Jay Leno, unfortunately, and then on. So that's what she says. So she's talking about that. He says, "She knew I had seen it and she knew I loved Winters. Almost everyone in town those days was a TV junkie. Most kids and their parents preferred Gunsmoke, What's My Line, or the $64,000 Question. But few stayed up to watch Parr. At least few admitted to doing so. Jack Parr was too emotional for most West Texas men, and in truth, he was simply too effeminate for anyone from West Texas to admit liking. Betty and I were Jack Parr washed in blood. So,
Jesus.
or Jack Parr fans washed in blood, he said. Now, that's the title of the book. That's a weird thing. Never mind. Sorry.
Right.
He then says, "We often discussed guests, and she would frequently mimic them. She did a wicked Zsa Zsa Gabor, a hilarious Ma Frickett, and a rather touching Jack Parr himself. Our second favorite show was on Saturday nights, The Gary Moore Show. It featured our favorite comedian, Carol Burnett." Well before Carol Burnett was a household name. I mean, this is 15 years before that, whom Betty could do perfectly. While most kids talked about girlfriends, proms, football, and hunting, Betty and I talked about actors, their talents, and what lay ahead for her.
Dude, I would have thrived in this time. I was born at the wrong time.
Yeah,
I
but
would have been the best 60s guy ever.
I would have been, oh my God, I would have been so miserable. I would have been miserable. They'd have run me out of town eventually.
The AC wouldn't have worked well enough for you.
No, not only I would have got used to that. I'm just talking. I wouldn't have gotten along well here at all.
Yeah, that's a good
You know, I'm just a contrary son of a bitch
I just
sometimes.
mean pop culture.
Oh yeah, pop culture. Yeah, there's a lot of
related. Great.
cool shit here. He then said, this is a quote from him to her, "You know, it's not a bad thing we're from Odessa, Shell. Carol Burnett's from San Antonio, and Debbie Reynolds is from some small town somewhere. Not everyone is from New York City, like Elaine May or Ann Mira. And Betty and I assumed we were the only people in all of West Texas, much less Odessa, who knew of Elaine May, Mike Nichols, which were a comedy team, Nichols and May, or the shocking Lenny Bruce. I don't like Lenny Bruce, I told her. He's sacrilegious and he uses horrible language, is what Shell told her. She said,
That's the idea.
She said, by the way, there's nothing to do here yet. There's always new stuff to try. She said, don't pay attention to what he says, Shell. Listen to why he says it. This girl knows she gets stand-up, and stand-up barely exists yet. That's fucking cool. That's cool shit.
I still would have been, what? What are you?
That's cool,
what
man.
Are you saying?
I love that. I love it. So she also said, quote, Roy Orbison is a genius. He said, we were sitting in my green 53 olds at Tommy's, and they were talking, and they were, drinking Cokes. And he said, oh, come on, he's a geek who sings funny. Did you hear his latest, Crying? I hate it when guys sing high like that. She said, it's called Falsetto, Shell, and that's the song I'm talking about. It's sheer poetry. And he said, poetry? Roy Orbison's a poet? I guess that would make Ooby Dooby and Pretty Little Pet Claudette his early sonnets, huh? And those are old songs of his from the 50s. She said, poetry is communicating emotion through words, Shelley Belly. Roy is still finding himself through his music, but he's a poet, you'll see. Man. Then he goes on to say, he's ugly, Betty Jean. And then she said, what does that have to do with anything? And then she sat back and thought and said, no, wait, maybe that's why he knows pain so well, because he doesn't look like a thick-headed, burr-cut, knuckle-dragging football player. He probably has experienced the pain of rejection and ridicule growing up around here.
Knuckle-draggers.
So either way, then he says, the cousin's like, well, isn't that who you like? You're going out with that Mac Herring guy. It's exactly who you described. She said, leave Mac out of this. You don't know him. No one really knows him. He's sensitive.
Being so jealous.
He's a sensitive. Yeah, he's just jealous, this kid. He's a sensitive. He's just hiding all this sensitivity. He's a sensitive boy. And he said, then the cousin said, Betty Jean, I'm not criticizing Mac. You're right. I don't know him at all. But you go on and on about poets and actors and say you hate football, but here you are dating a football player. What up with that, basically? Yeah. So she ended up getting a little bit upset. Then she said, are all players on your team exactly alike? Because he played football too. You're different than that cute Jack Littlefield with the big vocabulary is different too. Well, so is Mac. And she said, he's sensitive. He's lonely even when he's with people. But most of all, he's a listener. Yeah. Oh. She said, I mean, he listens to me. He listens to me and he asks about me. Other than you, Shell, he's the only guy in this whole godforsaken town who listens to anyone except himself. So, there you are. She said that occasionally, I'll just read from his book. Shell says, quote, occasionally we would talk on the phone. I would be studying in my bedroom/den. My mom moved from the master bedroom to my old room. Don't know why that is. And Betty, that's weird. And Betty would call just to say hi. One night the phone rang and she didn't say hi. She said, quote, guess who I fucked tonight?
Hell yeah.
He said it was the first time I ever heard a girl say fuck. Imagine that.
In that context?
That's being 17. I'm Italian. I heard fuck is the just the echo of my life. My mother screams it. They all scream it. So it's no big deal. But I couldn't imagine being like, oh, a girl just said fuck. That's so foreign to me. Hey, everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you a little bit more about our stylish friends at Quince. That's right. Let's go elevate your styles, people. Yeah. Get it going. Look good out there. And you can do it now without breaking your wallet, without breaking the bank, because at Quince, you can get high-end, versatile pieces at prices we can all actually afford, which is very nice. You want to get good stuff that lasts and it's good, and they have quality stuff that's very affordable. And you can do like we did, upgrading our stuff here, while still being a very reasonable price. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, responsible manufacturing practices, along with premium fabrics and finishes. It's all quality stuff. You're going to love it. Trust us, it looks good. And I've got the leather jacket. It's a very high-quality item. Real nice, soft leather. Yeah. Jimmie's got his linen pants he's rocking.
Yeah. They're terrific.
Come on, be like us, be fashionable, get in there with Quince, indulge in affordable luxury. Go to quince.com/smalltownmurder for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/smalltownmurder to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
Hey everybody, just going to take a quick break from the show to tell you a little bit about a very cool place, Thrive Market. Yes, we are both looking to get into the healthy swing this year. The problem is I don't know what's in everything, and I don't know if even I'm qualified to even read the labels to know if that's good or that's bad.
Right.
There's chemicals and things, and there's things floating around. I don't know what I'm doing out there. One of my favorite features, and I know you were talking to me about this, is the Healthy Swap Scanner in the Thrive Market app. Yeah, it's simple. You scan any item, and it'll instantly suggest a cleaner, healthier grocery alternative, which is
it's great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. Thrive Market also takes the guesswork out of finding these safe, healthy foods. For example, like I'm trying to get my protein intake up for energy. I'm always moving around. I need stuff, and I love that you can filter their site by the high protein options.
Nice.
It's very cool, and you can personalize this portion, and you can put filters on it. And get ready. You should be ready for a junk-free start to 2025. Get ready for it and head to thrivemarket.com/smalltownmurder and get 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift. That's THRIVE market.com/smalltownmurder, thrivemarket.com/smalltownmurder.
Now back to the show.
He said that the boy was Will Rosebud, who was a the way he describes him, a high-profile athlete, class officer, and all-around great guy. He said even though Shell went to a different high school, but he said he still knew this guy well because he was that popular. He also knew the guy's girlfriend, who was a cheerleader. His steady girlfriend. He said, I admit I was shocked, but Betty made the whole thing sound so funny. How horny he was, how he had to pretend not to know her at Tommy's, how she had to slow him down. Jesus, it was like I was back to teaching you, Shell. He was just dry humping the air over here. Then he said, I chastise her, don't say Jesus. Well, she's talking about fucking a guy, so it doesn't really matter if she says Jesus.
She's talking about facilitating a man cheating on his girlfriend.
I mean, he's the one, either way. So he then says this, quote, don't say Jesus. What happened next? So don't say Jesus, but please tell me all the dirty sexual details. That's what I mean.
That's what
I mean. Everybody is a hypocrite here, including everyone in the story. She then goes on to say, quote, we did it in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes isn't long enough, Shell. Remember that when it comes time for you. Oh, my God. She then said, don't worry, Shell. I never tell anyone I'm your cousin. Never. And then he says, Betty, who don't you tell? I'll call them up right now. I'm not ashamed of you. And she said, well, maybe you should be. And this is all joking around. This is her way of joking around. So here's a letter that she wrote to Will. All right. This is when Will didn't want to see her anymore, apparently, after this. It's a long one. So quickly here. To Will. Will, why? Why in the name of all God's earth can't we arrive at some compromise? Though you never speak to me, seldom look at me, but often snub me, yet all the same you're tugging at my very soul until my whole being is strained and tense with the effort of controlling myself. My goodness. I ask myself over and over, why? Why must it be this way? Yes, yes, yes. I realize now that what I did with you was wrong, but you must condemn me for it? ? You have condemned me, you know, again, maybe not with your lips, but with your every action cries hatred and damnation for all eternity. My God. And yet with all that, you're more tolerant than Mac. He hates me for what I did to him, because this was while she was going out with Mac and he was out of town. Yeah. Hates me for what I did to him. Where is it? Hates me for what I did to him, for what I made him do to himself, and yet he can't express his hatred in rage. He makes sly digs, causing me to writhe in embarrassment and fear. Daily he punishes me, making remarks no one understands but me, but that I feel the entire world knows what he's doing to me and is applauding him and cheering him on. Do you hate me? Can you find it in your heart to hate someone as small and tormented as me? You have hurt me far more often than I have hurt you. Your eyes, when they happen to meet mine, are filled with a strange expression or mixed expressions that I cannot identify. I long to talk to you, but I know there is very little we could say. Though you laugh and talk and joke with others, the thought of me causes you to hush instantly. Why? Why? What in God's name causes you to halt your merriment? Is this the memory of our time together so distasteful for you? Do you remember it with disgust? Can't you see what you're doing to me? I go through hell every day, a hell that we created together, you and me. Now only I am forced to live in it. Can you not find it in your heart to forgive me and be friendly? Yes, I am jealous. I get so jealous of you that I could scream and gnash my teeth and beat the trees in my rage. Good Lord. If I thought I could perhaps in some way bring you back to me, I would spare no effort to make you mine. It's almost over here. I would be better off if you were dead. I would be better off were you dead. Then I could perhaps forget you. But now I'm daily constrained to see you and not speak to you, to love you and know that I am hated. I hate myself for loving you, and yet I hang on to my love for you as though it could pull me out of this pit of darkness I am forced to inhabit. My entire being cries, will, will, will. Even the birds mock me with their cries of will, will, will. And your friends, they know, don't they? Yes, I am sure they do. They give me their hard, knowing glances that I must pretend not to see. Pretense! Exclamation point. You must pretend not to know me. I must pretend not to care for you. Mac must pretend it was his idea to break up. Steve must pretend to ignore me. And dear sweet Dan and Jerry must pretend that they know nothing of the whole affair. God, my God, everything is one huge distorted lie. Will.
What is happening?
Can't you see what you are doing to me? You're ruining me. You've torn me to bits. Half of me cries out to you and the other half recoils in fear. I cannot even pray anymore. I know that God is so far away I cannot reach him. All I can do is cry piteously, God, my God, please, and yet he never hears me.
What kind of dick is Will packing?
Imagine being meathead Will and getting this letter. You're like, I don't know what the hell this girl, I don't know what she's talking about at all. Somebody want to translate this for me? Is there, you know any of them Mexicans around here? Maybe it's Spanish. I don't know what the fuck she's saying. So she basically, this is what ends up happening. She ends up hooking up with him. And then he ends up basically making up with Mac over it. They make up and they're friends. He'll say later on that they shook hands and forgot about the whole thing. But this basically, this ruins Betty and Mac as well.
So many relationships.
Yeah, so she says she wrote to a friend, I've never been so humiliated and torn to pieces as I am now. I feel so lonely and deserted. I don't care what happens now or ever. This is pure hell. So that's that. And now we're going to read a quick breakup note, and then we'll get into the whole senior year of high school and what happens here. So this is the note she writes to Mac after Mac, quote, broke up with her, whatever. Okay. Quote, Mac, well, I guess you accomplished what you set out to do. You hurt me more than you'll ever know. When you handed me that note this morning, you virtually changed the course of my life. I don't know what I expected the note to say, but not that. I'll not waste my time saying that I didn't deserve it because I guess I did. I guess he wrote her a pissed off letter that I found out you banged my friend and I'm not happy about it. So it was one of those. I've never been so hurt in my life, and I guess your note was the jolt I needed to get me back on the straight and narrow. I've done a lot of things, I know, that were bad and cheap, but I swear before God that I didn't mean them to be like that. I was just showing off. I know it's much too late with you, Mac, but I swear that another boy won't get the chance to say what you said to me. You've made me realize that instead of being smart and sophisticated like I thought, I was only being cheap and ugly and whorish. Jesus.
My God.
Forgive me for writing this last note, and thank you for reading it. I'll not trouble you again, and Mac, I haven't forgotten the good times we've had. I really enjoy knowing you. I've really enjoyed knowing you, and I'm awfully sorry that it had to end this way. Best of luck with your steady girlfriend. I hope she's the best. Betty. And then P.S., when you think of me, try to think of the good times we had and not this. Yeah. So that's where things stand as we enter senior year of high school.
Shit.
In 1960. So September 23rd, 1960, she writes this in study hall to somebody. We don't know who, one of her friends. Mm-hmm. Well, I finally made the rank of senior, and I can hardly believe it. I really don't feel much different. We get our senior rings Wednesday. I'll be glad. It sure does feel funny to be on the top of everything looking down. Seems strange to think that this is really all of high school. Next year? 3 question marks. We had our pictures made last week. If they turn out halfway decent, I'll send you one. Send me another picture if you have it. Well, the bell's about to ring, so I'll write more later. Love, Betty. Don't know who that's to. So somebody. So, yeah, she talks again here. There's another writing about her dreams of her senior year. Okay.
She has dreams?
I finally become 17 years old.
Oh.
And finally become a senior. It's the end right there. You would write that. I finally entered my 90th year.
My final phase.
My final phase. Finally, feel I've accomplished what I need to. I have so many hopes and dreams. Some of my dreams have simply floated away and out of my life. Others have been burst, their iridescent loveliness shattered into a million pieces.
What the
Whoa.
fuck?
I've had troubles, maybe a little more than the next person. Teens are all inclined to be dramatic, and I was worse than most. The death of a brother hit me hard. I think one of her brothers died, but I couldn't find more on that. Insults and slanderous gossip ruined my reputation. Insults that were unjustified and cut so deeply there's still a scar. Things I thought were surely mine suddenly torn from me. Friends, parents, hopes, even my belief in God. For a while I became what many kids termed to be a beat, meaning beatnik. I wore my long hair straight, white lipstick, gobs of eye makeup, and spent hours reading Jack Kerouac. I spoke sadly of the world. It was all an act, yes, but few people saw through it, least of all me. I was unhappy, depressed. Finally, one day, a friend looked me straight in the eyes and told me what I was, not what I thought I was, a beat, a sophisticate, but what I really was, a girl for which he has no respect, a girl who was ruining her life. Yeah. I began to see then what I was doing. It was then that I found God again, waiting right here where I left him. You would think everything would be all right again, wouldn't you? But it wasn't. I began to blame God if things didn't work out right, ask him for things that I had no right to ask for. Into my life came one of great want. I felt that if I couldn't have this, I couldn't go on living. It possessed my whole life. I couldn't sleep at night. So, in school, there are girls that they call the Kashmir girls. That's the top of the list.
Yeah.
Those are the top of the list girls, the top of the food chain, in popularity. They're the most popular. They're the ones that they all have Letterman jackets on from the football player boyfriend. They're either cheerleaders or they actually have high school sororities back then too.
What?
Yeah. They have.
What sense does that make?
No idea. They're getting them all ready to be sorority people later. So,
good Lord.
Yeah, there you go. So this is the group that's the top echelon, and then Betty's not one of those. You know what I mean?
She's not part of that. Yeah.
No, her classmates remember her as kind of a non-entity. Basically, they don't really. She's not really, unless you knew her outside of school.
Yeah.
There's not really anything that you would think about or anything like that. She one of her friends. Oh, this is Shelton again, the cousin. He says Betty wanted to be liked. He said she wanted what we all want, to be totally unique while being completely accepted.
Oh.
Sounds familiar if you're a comedian. So I think differently than all of you. Now like me.
Now love me and
Clap
think like
for
I
me.
think.
And think how I think. Both of those things. So tell me my brilliant humor changed your mind about anything. I don't even care if it's a ham sandwich, something. So Betty wants out of Odessa, though, big time. She dreams she wants to go be an actress. She's got movie posters and playbills all over her wall. She reads Confidential, which is a magazine like Variety. She reads she subscribes to like the Hollywood, business rags and shit like that. It's like industry rags and shit. She also was in the school plays as well. She's in the drama club, which seems perfect for her, honestly. Yeah. Seems perfect. She was in 3 different ones. During her junior year, the speech team performed the balcony scene from Romeo and Juliet at the University Interscholastic League competition. And, of course, Betty plays Juliet, which will make a lot of sense later on. She wanted to do that. She liked that kind of drama. There's 4 kids altogether. and there's no way she's going to be able to afford to go to college, and she knows that. So her plan is she has a part-time job at Woolworths, and her plan is to save up as much as she can eventually to get the fuck out of here and get to New York and get on Broadway. That's what she wants to do.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. At first, she's going to live at home and attend Odessa College up the street and pay for it with Woolworths and do that sort of shit. But she's also going to go, after that, go to New York City when she has the money. Yep. Yeah. She, a lot of times, would slip out the back door when her parents went to sleep, and she would walk down to the Tommy's Drive-In, which was about 4 blocks away, the restaurant, and there was always people there, people hanging out, and, she'd do that, basically. And she was, like we described her in there, she'd show up, and it was like, what's on? What's up, motherfuckers? The record would scratch, and people would turn around. So at the end, they said at the end of an evening, it was not strange for her to end up, going off with some football player and parking in a car somewhere at the end of the night. She'd go walk off and find somebody. Basically, the guys would go drop their girlfriends off because they had a curfew. Then they'd come back and they'd pick her up because she was out past her curfew.
Because she's fun.
Because she's that's how it worked. And back then, I mean, nobody minded if they did that, if boys were banging all sorts of girls, but the girls were supposed to be, fucking virgins till they were married, basically.
Which makes zero sense. Are we supposed to fuck each other? I mean,
who am I? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that, and here's a quote here. One of the people said, this is a friend of hers, if a girl had a steady boyfriend, then she could have sex as long as she didn't advertise it. But if she did it with someone who wasn't her boyfriend, then she was a pariah. That's how it worked. Exactly. But this kid, one of her classmates said, quote, Eisenhower had been president during most of our years of growing up. The kids were kept on a very short leash. You got the feeling that with Betty, she was always straining against that leash, even when it choked her, maybe especially when it choked her.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's some sexual undertones to that. She was upset in her senior year that Odessa High School's new drama teacher didn't think she was much of an actress, and gave her the role of stage manager for the play for the spring production. She was pissed about that. It is Winterset is the production. It's loosely based on the Sacco and Vanzetti case, which is a long story. She also said that she found out that Mac is going to play one of the leading roles, though. Ooh. He got a part. It's odd for the football players to do theater, by the way. That's not normal. Right. So that's why she likes him, because he's different. So he is going to play a killer in this, basically, and she's upset there. She starts to feel terrible. She starts to feel like, she lost Mac and she can't get him back. She told one of her friends, I have to get him back. So that's her goal for the year here. Her dad ends up going through her dresser drawers at one point, searching her room for signs of bad kidness, basically.
Yeah, whatever is unapproved by Dad for West Texas child behavior.
He found her diary. In her diary, she wrote detailed passages about her experiences with boys.
Oh, boy.
So Dad not thrilled at all. Parents freaking the fuck out, obviously.
I mean, that's not what... It's your fault for knowing that.
You should, if you open up if you have a teenage girl and you find a diary and you go, oh God, I can't open that. That's
if you read that,
you're asking
any
for
knowledge you glean from that is your own fault.
Yeah, unless you're pretty sure they're suicidal, don't do anything like that. That's yeah. So, but then she got very depressed about this because her dad got mad at her, and she pleaded with her father to say that she changed now and she's not like that anymore, but he didn't believe her. One of her friends said, Betty said that the situation at home was bad. I wanted to help, but I didn't know what to do. I was only 16 years old. That was one of her friends. Didn't know what to do. Her senior English class, by the way, she wrote this: soon we will be older and grown up, really grown up, and will be made to realize and believe in different things. People before we are completely grown, or perhaps before we are completely grown, will be made to believe in war, hate, and death just as our parents before us have learned. I believe in happiness, the kind of happiness that after you have triumphed over pain and sorrow. I believe in the laughter that comes with such happiness, laughter reflecting the tears of yesterday and the hopes of tomorrow.
My
Jesus
God.
Christ, she's writing fucking. Is that a John Kennedy speech? That's like,
Holy
shit.
What office you running for, Betty?
fuck, man. So by winter of 1960, she's very depressed, starts telling her friends that she's be better off if she was just dead now.
Oh, my Betty.
She's bummed out. She told her, bummed off, man. She told her friends that, her one friend, Howard Sellers, that heaven must be a nice place at one point. Then she said that she half-heartedly tried to kill herself. And they said, well, what do you mean? What'd you do? And she said she took 4 aspirin, which, not to laugh at anybody's cry for help or suicide attempt, but 4 aspirin aren't going to do it. That's not. You're not going to die from that. That's like saying I ate 2 sandwiches. Like it's too much probably, but
I doubled the recommended dose.
Yeah, like that's not really. It's not going to kill you, obviously.
No.
She also told her friends that she climbed up to the school auditorium rafters, intending to throw herself onto the stage below, but didn't have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. So she said that whenever anybody would listen, she'd be talking about this. But all of her friends just thought it was Betty. Betty's dramatic, they all say. Mm-hmm. She goes from big highs and lows, and she just always has some. They just think it's kind of her character right now. She's always they think of her as always kind of playing a character. Yeah, this is her character is woe is me girl now.
She also doesn't understand, because she's a child, that brain is part of the creative side, and you need to embrace that.
Exactly. But it's not, it's right. Being kind of suppressed.
Oh, it's so scary and awkward at the time. Yeah.
So her friends would just kind of roll their eyes, and they would say basically, there goes Betty again. That's Betty. You know, even when she started being a little bit weird, they thought it was just her being dramatic. She told like 5 different people working on the play that she wanted to kill herself but didn't have the nerve. She asked one, quote, would you kill me? Would you do it for me? And he said, no, I don't think so. And he was fucking laughing, basically, just laughing it off, going, no, that's crazy. So one night after rehearsal, Mac gave her and the Howard guy, the guy she talked to, a ride home from rehearsal, and she asked him at that point, would you mind killing me? Mac, would you kill me? You know, you're mad. She said, I'll hold the gun to my head. You just pull the trigger. That's all. I'll hold it. You just pull the trigger. So just, I can't do that part. So Mac laughed at her and was like, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? I'm not going to kill you. No, that's crazy. And then she laughed too. So it was like, yeah, my life sucks. And it was one of those. Like,
what an awkward conversation.
It's very weird. But with Betty, she was always bringing up stuff that people didn't really know where she was coming from. So they just kind of shrugged it off. She even went so far as she wrote this note that cleared him of culpability. She's like, look, I'll write this note. It won't be your fault. So the next afternoon, though, and he was just like, yeah, it's a joke. The next afternoon during rehearsal, Betty pulled Mac into the prop room, and she was all sad, and she told him she wanted to die. That's it. She said, yeah, I want to die, and, there you go. She said that he said, quote, she just came up to me and asked why I would kill her. That's what he's quoted as saying right afterwards. I asked her why. She gave me several reasons, and I said, no, I don't think I will, and just passed it off as a joke. That was So then she walked up to another friend at rehearsal and said, quote, it's been nice knowing you. And he said, I asked her what she meant, and she said, I finally talked Mac into killing me. And I just said, okay, I'll send roses, and then we both laughed. So, yeah, that's really fucking weird, I would say. So the next guy here, he also said that he was in study hall with her during all this, and he walked up and said, Jim, would you kill me? She walked up to him and said, Jim, would you kill me? To her friend. He said, I thought she was joking, but then 3 days later she asked again. And so he says, quote, she had a more serious tone and said, why not, when I refused? I said, I charge for my services, trying to make a joke out of it.
Clever, yeah.
She said she didn't have any money, but she could possibly get $50 or $60.
No, that's not what I meant.
He said, quote, I said my price is $500 to $1,000. She said, won't you reconsider? I said, no. I said, this must be some kind of joke. And then we laughed, and that was that.
Can we haggle?
Yeah, she's like, $50, $60? Come on. Johnny Etheridge is another guy here, Melissa's son.
Yeah.
He is another student. He said that she walked up to him and said, "Johnny, will you kill me?" And he said, "I thought she was joking. I told her you must be kidding." But she said, "No, she's serious," and asked me to kill her again. So they said, people asked, "Well, did you take it seriously?" And she said she was a dramatic person and talked about dying all the time, like jumping off the water tower and things like that. Nobody took it seriously.
Why can't she just do it?
I don't know. So
that's wild.
March 20th was her being taken home from rehearsal by Mac and saying, "Come on, kill me," and then saying, "I'll write you a note," and all that kind of thing. March 22nd, 1961, here, now we're in 61, 7:45 a.m.
Oh, boy.
Okay, 7:45 a.m., her mother, Betty's mother, Mrs. Williams, calls the police to report Betty missing.
Okay, so she's not home at 7:45 a.m.
Not home at 7:45 a.m. She apparently hasn't been seen, been missing since 10 p.m. last night.
Okay.
She's 17 years old, 5'5", 98 pounds. Then the mother said, "I don't know how she's dressed. I thought she was in the house, and she must have snuck out. So I don't know." So they looked around. The cops around here said that their foul play was feared. They said they found torn bed clothing in her room. So they were worried that somebody came in and took her, basically, because they found, torn shit. So the mother's frantic, obviously. They don't know what's going on. At school that day, one by one, Betty's principal is bringing all of her friends in to ask, "Have you seen Betty?" That's how
they're taking it dead ass serious right out of the gate.
They are, except that the principal and not the cops are asking,
right.
"Where's Betty?" Which is interesting. They just rope him into the fucking criminal justice system somehow. So they were asked to tell what they knew. One kid, Ike Nail is his name. Mac Herring, Ike Nail. And it's just how it sounds. Nail, Nail, Ike. He's a junior. He was the guy. He had taken Betty home from rehearsal the night before. So probably the last person to have seen her at that point. So he said that, I dropped her off at home. That was it. I dropped her off. I don't know shit. So then the cops come in. They talk to several different people that had seen her late after rehearsal and all this sort of thing. The cops said, but their stories didn't sound just right, so we asked some more questions. We backtracked the stories. We found that she had a coke date with her boyfriend, which is a very different thing in 1961.
Yeah.
In West Texas than now.
That's a malt shoppy date.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. And we talked with him at length. She sneaked out for the date, and when he brought her home, he remembered seeing a car parked in the alley at the rear of the home. That's what he says. That's what the boyfriend says. "Hey, listen, I dropped her off. There was a car in the fucking alley. I don't know anything." He said he dropped her off at 10 o'clock, and she said, "Come back in a half hour and meet me in the alley behind her house." So there you go. So she ended up about a half hour later. Betty snuck back out the back door and got into his car again. Okay. And he's like, "What's up?" He thought he was getting some, is what he thought.
Yeah.
That's what he was like. Yeah. So they're parking in the alley. Then they see headlights coming toward them in the alley. Yeah. And Betty recognizes the car as Mac's car right away and says, "Oh my God, I didn't think he'd actually come." I guess she had called him and asked him to come. So he shows up in the alley. Now, she then joked to him that, to Ike, she goes, "Well, finally convinced him to kill me, so that's what I'm doing. He's going to go kill me now," and gets out of the car. And she says, and they were like joking around, and he says, "No, seriously, what's going on?" And she said, quote, "I've got to call his bluff, even if he does kill me." That's what she said. So she gets into Mac's Jeep, and Mac and Betty drive away from out west. They drive out toward No Trees, which is just short of Kermit, which is another place out there, like the Frog. Yeah. So they're driving this. It's about, as they're in there, they talk. They're looking for Mac now. They've gotten to the point in the story where Mac has picked her up.
He's the linchpin. Yeah.
Now they're like, okay, well, now we got to talk to Mac. We leave this boyfriend, we go to the next boyfriend. So they go to find Mac. They get him and bring him down to the police station to talk to him. And at first he says, I didn't see her last night. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, Mac.
And they're like, well, we know that you fucking saw her last night because a guy watched her get into your goddamn car. So start over, try again. Let's do this. He said, okay, fine. I did see Betty. Yeah, but I didn't want to get in trouble for it. So that's why I lied. But I dropped Betty off outside of her parents' house at midnight. And that's the last time I saw her. We went and hung out. And they said, well, why is that? They said, well, where'd you leave her? Back door or front door?
Uh-huh.
And he said, the front door. And they went, really? Did you wait and make sure she went inside safely? And he said, no, I just took off. I just didn't even, I just dropped her off and went. So they're like, okay. And she was dressed in her pajamas. She had small, like little short pajamas and like a little outdoor outfit with like a kind of like a robe-ish type thing over it. A duster, they called it, but I think it was like an indoor thing. So
an indoor duster?
She's in her pajamas. And they're like, so you dropped her off in her pajamas at midnight and didn't make sure she got inside.
Right.
And he's like, I guess not. I just drove away. And they're like, well, why the fuck would... They said, basically, why would you not drive her around the back? She's not going to sneak into the front of her house. If she snuck out the back, she's going to sneak back in the back, correct? Why would she go back in the front? And he's like, I don't know, maybe she went around the back after I dropped her off. That's how this went back and forth. So about 45 minutes go by, and they say, listen, Mac, your dad's outside. He wants to talk to you. You want to talk to your dad? So he says, sure, I'll talk to my dad. So Mac leaves the room, goes and talks to his dad here, goes and talks to Papa Herring over here. So as they're talking to, he's talking to his dad, he says, look, I have a letter, I have this whole thing. And his dad's like, what are you talking about? He said that his dad said that he was acting normal, and he talked with Mac at the police station and all this sort of thing. And he said, Mac, Betty didn't come home last night and her folks are worried. We have to have the truth, he told his son. You have to tell him the truth if you know anything here. And his father stuck with the story, but then he said, tell us what really happened. Where did you take her? And he asked his son again, and he said, this is the quote, Daddy, wait a minute, I did it, is what he said. Yeah. Daddy, wait a minute, I did it. And his son said, the father said, you did what? And he said, I killed her. And his dad said, no, Mac, you couldn't have. And he goes, yes, I did. And his dad said, why? And he said, quote, I didn't want to. She begged and pleaded. She wanted it that way. She wanted to go to heaven, and she thought it was the best. It was the best and only way that she could be happy. And the father
looked in her face, and I just saw a squirrel.
I just saw a fucking jackrabbit and a quail. That's insane. The father said, I kept asking him why, and the kid said, here's something for what it's worth. Basically, here's this. And then he also says, there is no motive. I think I'm crazy. That's all I can say. That's what he told his dad.
What?
So the note says it's dated March 20th, 1961, handwritten. It says, I want everyone to know what I'm about to do in no way implicates anyone else. I say this to make sure that no blame falls on anyone other than myself. I have depressing problems that concern, for the most part, myself. I'm waging a war within myself, a war to find the true me, and I fear I'm losing the battle. So rather than admit defeat, I'm going to beat the quick retreat into no man's land of death. As I have only the will and not the fortitude necessary, a friend of mine, seeing how great my torment is, has graciously consented to look after the details. His name is Mac Herring, and I pray that he will not have to suffer for what he has done, what he is doing for my sake. I take upon myself all blame, for there it lies on me alone. Betty Williams. She signed it. Okay.
I'm stunned.
Yeah. If she had like fucking stage 12 ALS, I could, you know what I mean? I'd be like, she's in pain every day, all day. It's all I see. And she, that would be one.
Suicide.
She's just
at the hands of
a kind of
murdered.
a kind of a sad girl who lives in Texas. And if she moved, would probably feel much better about herself is a completely different thing. Right. So either way, he said, then he goes in, now he's ready to talk to the cops because he told his dad. He said he was first approached by Betty on Monday during a rehearsal for Winterset. He said that, she begged him to kill her, but he said it wasn't until Tuesday that he agreed to go through with it. So it took a whole day of convincing to talk him into murder. He said, I talked with her at play practice, and I made her play practice. That's not how that works. And I made arrangements to meet her at midnight. Practice was over at 8:30, and I went home and got my shotgun.
Shotgun.
He said he drove to Betty's house and parked in the alley. He said she was out with her boyfriend. Then they drove down the alley and she got out of the car and came to my car wearing her pajamas and a duster. She said she had thought about it for a good while, and she's told me that she tried to take sleeping pills once to end it, but she just got sick.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. 4.
That was aspirin. This might have been a different time.
Yeah.
He then says, wow, on the way out there, we talked about her friends. She was cheerful and chatted about how happy she was going to be dead. We sat in the car and talked a while, maybe 15 or 20 minutes once they got out there. She wasn't sad. She was happy. We talked about all sorts of things. She kept saying what it was going to be like to be in heaven. She told me she was sorry to leave her boyfriend like this. And he said we parked on the road at the top of the tank. After we finished talking, we walked down to the shore. Okay. Now, there's a water thing here. There's like a pond. It's now, well, we'll get into that in a second. He says she left her duster in the car, but she was only wearing shorty pajamas and she was cold and went back to the car and got it. She took her shoes off down at the water. I just stood there with the gun. I said, wait, this is a mistake though, because she asked for that. Okay, there's two different things here. In the original quoting of him, they misquote it, but it's the other thing. He said, I just stood there with the gun. I said, give me a kiss to remember you by. She gave me a kiss and then said, thank you, Mac. I will always remember you for that. Oh. She asked him to kiss her. They misquoted this. Okay. She said, Mac, kiss me before I die. Okay.
What the fuck, man?
That's what happened. Then he had the gun up to her head. She then said, now, and we'll get into more detail. I raised the barrel up and she took a hold of it with the back of her hand and held it up there, pointing to his left temple. Uh-huh. Then I pulled the trigger. She was dead like that, and he snapped his fingers.
Yeah, because that's what happens, Mac.
Yeah, especially the postmortem on her is she died from a shotgun blast which tore into the side of her head and partially decapitated her.
Right.
It tore the top of her top half of her head off. It's fucking horrific. Absolutely horrific. Reports will indicate later on, though, that she was not sexually assaulted in any way, shape, or form. So when asked, why did you kill her? There's a short pause, and Max said, well, she couldn't take living anymore, and like she'd been living. There is no motive. I did it because I felt like it's what I had to do. She thought it was best. He said it was last night. That's all. And they said, oh, my God. And he said, I had made my mind up before I went to pick her up that I'd do it. I had hoped to talk her out of it, but I knew I could go through with it if I had to, is what he said. Huh?
How?
You know what you do, how you definitely wouldn't have gone through with is you don't bring a shotgun with you.
Right.
And you just go and you go, yeah, sure, we'll drive out there. And then you go, we're not doing that. I didn't bring any guns. We're just going to talk. And this is crazy. What are we talking about here? So I think that's what she was hoping he would do. Maybe. This is the thing that we can talk about for eternity.
Listen, you don't understand. If you're not here to tell them, they're not going to believe me. No, I can't do this.
That doesn't work. Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm going to jail. I'm not doing that for you.
Not only that, I don't want to shoot my friend in the head, probably. Yeah. That's pretty gross. I don't want any part of that. That's fucking disgusting. No.
But understand, even if I can deal with that, there are repercussions.
Big ones.
This is illegal.
Yeah. And here, this is what it is, too, is because it sounds plausible, but then it gets a little more. Here, listen to this. Okay. He said that they said, well, what'd you do with her then? He said, I threw her in the water. And they said, how'd she sink? And he said, well, I tied two lead weights around her waist and just took my clothes off and pulled her into the middle of the pond. She sank right away. She had 50 pounds of lead tied to her.
So he brought weights too?
He brought a whole murder kit. Wait till you hear what he prepped for. It's a whole murder kit. It's what a psychopath would bring with him to kill a woman in the woods.
Why
it's fucking
would he
insane.
do this?
That's what I'm saying. They said that Did Betty know what he planned to do with? Did she know that you were going to dump her in the water? Uh-huh. And he said she was aware of the plan to put her in the water.
Okay.
He said that, he just walked out. He said after leaving the body in the center of the pond, he said he walked to his car and turned on the heater to get warm, because it was chilly.
Yeah, he's all wet.
He said that his boots had become muddy and that he left them outside his parked car so the car wouldn't get dirty. And then he drove off, and later on, the boots will be where he said they were, too, by the way. Okay. He said that, in a little bit more detail, he said that he helped Betty from the Jeep, and Jesus Christ, he said that he put his jacket on her at first because she was cold. And either way, that's how that ended up happening. He had to then go back to the Jeep after all this to get a string of wire and weights that he had taken with him.
Yeah.
He had to go back. Like, he had too much shit to carry in one trip. He had to get like the shotgun, the weights, the shit to tie her with, and all that. When he came back, he asked her how she was, and he said, okay. He said, should I spread this blanket out? He had a blanket back there. Mm-hmm. She said, no, that's not necessary. So he smoothed out some ground next to, the pond to get rid of the little rocks and pebbles and shit, and told her to kneel down. And that's when she said, Mac, you said, I want to kiss. You said we could kiss, she said. And he said, yes, all right, fine. And he gave her a kiss, and apparently she made it a passionate kiss.
Yeah.
And he just broke it off and said, okay, kneel down. And she did. She knelt down, picked up the 12 gauge, and that's when he said, tell me when you're ready. She said, now, and there you go. That's what happened. So this is fucking insane. So when the cops later on will go, like we said, his boots are still there. He said then he drove home like nothing happened and went to school the next day and, asked about what the fuck. We went to school and acted like everything was fine, and they said, Miss Betty's missing. And he went, oh, wow, that's weird.
Crazy,
right? So he said, quote, then they asked, well, how'd you feel? He said, I never felt worse in my life, but I know she's better off. There was a time last night when I wish I did the same to myself. And he said, so, it's horrible. He said, I'm sorry for what I've done to Mr. and Mrs. Williams, Betty's sister, and my mother. I'm not sorry for myself, but for the other people I've hurt. They said that, what would you do if you could turn the clock back 24 hours? And he said, if I knew what my feeling would be now, I would not have gone through with it. Mm-hmm. So how did he prep? He said that he doubted she was serious and all that, but he brought all this shit with him, which makes the cop say that he doubted Mac's story about the events. He said, we're still checking his story out. It doesn't hold water to me. He said, so we have to gather our information a little better. He said, we planned to question Herring on the lie detector last night, but we returned and their attorney advised against it. So once all this is over, he ends up lawyering up, and then they don't get a lie detector out of him. Mm-hmm. So he said that this is all from his own confession. Before driving Betty a half hour out of town to the woods to shoot her and dump her in a pond. How often have we heard of that on the show? Quite often, right?
Yeah.
That's what serial killers do.
He's had so much time to think about this.
He went home, got lead weights, rope, shotgun shells, even a miner's helmet so he could wear it while taking her out into the water.
Holy hell.
Yeah. That is disturbing.
That's deep. Yeah.
That's deep. That means he thought about, gee, how do you murder and dispose of somebody? So
how am I going to see in the water? Like the part of this should be, I got her all the way out there and I couldn't really see. But no, I brought a miner's helmet so that I could.
That's what I mean. He's got it all covered. It's fucking sick. They said the cops said he showed very little emotion for Betty. Mm-hmm. And he said, because the other stuff that he said, like, oh, if I could go back, I don't know how I feel. He said that to the press, not to the cops.
Wow.
Then to the cops, he said to the deputy sheriff, quote, I feel toward her like a cat dying in a muddy street in the rain. So he wanted to put her out of her misery, is basically what he was trying to say. So they said, well, Mac, you got to show us where this is at, because they don't even believe him at first. They're like, this is bullshit, I think. Yeah. I think he killed her, dumped her somewhere else, and this whole story about the pond is horseshit. So they take a ride out to what, by the way, will forever be known from that time on as Dead Girl's Pond, by the way.
Oh, dear Christ.
Yeah. Dead Girl's Pond. Nice, obviously. They pick up the criminal investigation unit guy. He joins in. 4 officers and Mac Herring head out away from Odessa on the Kermit Highway. And the cops still think it's bullshit, but they're going to go through with it. Mac's telling them, turn here, go there. It's this way, over there. Finally, they turned off. It's about 3 miles outside of no trees. So imagine what that's like, even less trees.
Calling all dog owners. Your furry friend deserves top-notch nourishment, and Ollie delivers the clean, fresh nutrition your dog needs in 5 flavors they'll absolutely flip over. Ollie is made in U.S. kitchens with ingredients carefully sourced from trusted growers and producers around the world, with absolutely no harmful fillers or preservatives. With protein-first recipes like fresh beef with sweet potatoes, fresh turkey with blueberries, or fresh lamb with cranberries, you might start thinking, dang, my dog eats better than I do. And that's probably true when it comes to Ollie. Give your pup a fresh start this new year by letting them taste test a personalized meal plan with Ollie. Head to ollie.com/Wondery. Tell them all about your dog and use code WONDERY to get 60% off your first box of meals when you subscribe today. Plus, they offer a clean bowl guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/Wondery and enter code WONDERY to get 60% off your first box. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie. Start your dog's new year off right with Ollie.
Creating really great retail experiences is tough, especially with multiple stores, teams of staff, fulfillment centers, separate workflows. It's a lot. But with Shopify Point of Sale, you can do it all without complexity. And let's face it, acquiring new customers is expensive. With Shopify POS, you can keep shoppers coming back with personalized experiences and first-party data that give marketing teams a competitive edge. In fact, it's proven, based on a report from EY, businesses on Shopify POS see real results, like 22% better total cost of ownership and benefits, equivalent to an 8.9% uplift in sales on average relative to the market set surveyed. Want more? Check out at shopify.com/Wondery. All lowercase, and learn how to create the best retail experiences without complexity. Shopify.com/Wondery.
And they said now it started going to this thing, and he pointed and said, Mac pointed and said, cow path there. So they went down this cow path. Finally, he told them to stop. And Herring led them up a steep incline, which led them, which you couldn't see. There's a stock pond that you couldn't see from over the incline. So up in the top, now you can see the body of water below. The officers still thought he was full of shit. So they were questioning about where the shooting took place. He walked them over there, and they found tissue and skin and blood. And now they're like, uh-oh. He said that Betty's out there in the middle of the pond out there. So they said, well, we don't know where to look. Will you go in there and get her for us? Now, that is not procedure, okay? I'm going to say right now, I get the procedures are different, but to have the murder suspect retrieve the body for you and have access to it is the craziest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life.
I don't have my wetsuit, and I kind of like these pants. Could you go get her?
Could you go get her? Because I've seen when they take, I've seen like Kelly Cochran when they took her to look for bodies. She's like, well, I can go right over there, and they're like, no, you point it out, and then we'll go in and, with a crime scene, properly figure it out. They said, can you go grab her for us? So he said, sure. Took off all his clothes, got down to his fucking underwear, hopped into the water, and swam out there. And he's like, found her. Got her.
I got it.
Drives out, swims out to the middle. It's about 3.5 feet of water. He grabbed her and started basically walking toward the shore slowly with her dragging behind.
Oh, my God.
By the foot. He just dragged her by the foot, Jimmy.
Like a caveman.
Like a caveman. Just dragged her like a dead animal that you just... Yeah. Like he dragged her by the fucking foot. Wow. He half pulled the body onto the shore, and then they told him, just leave it there. You've done enough now, huh? So
we've seen enough.
He left it. He then dried himself off, got dressed again. Mac does. And there's pictures of this I'll post on social media. The press is there as well. So at this point, while they're doing measurements and stuff like that, the cops let the press do like a whole photo shoot there. They Mac talks to him. He's hanging out. He's walking around. He's just hanging out. It's a big, like a barbecue. Someone should have brought a grill. Like, it's crazy. So they're doing all this. He showed no emotion while they're doing that. He just stood there, just did all that kind of shit. He said, she wanted a kiss to remember you by, is what what he told them. That's what she asked for. He said that after he raised the shotgun and pulled the trigger, he told several times, he told this to the press, all different reporters are talking to him. The sheriff of Kermit arrives at the scene, and the more photographers and more news people follow. This was covered amazingly back then in the paper. There'll be like an article on the front page with a couple pictures, and then there'll be like page 3 more, and it's a whole page of pictures and fucking, it's crazy.
Literally much more.
This was a big deal. So, by the way, this was his father's hunting place. His father owned this. He didn't take her to the middle of nowhere. He took her to his father's hunting grounds, which makes it creepier for some reason.
Really attached.
It's really weird.
That's wild. If they don't find her, if nobody puts out like all this effort to find her, you're going to go back there and go hunting, and her body's going to... What the fuck is happening?
That's what I mean. None of this adds up to a smart guy doing it. A smart guy... This sounds like a dumb guy helping with a suicide. A smart guy would do it better, I feel like, and we know he's a smart guy, so that's annoying. They also find they find the footprints, his footprints and her small footprints next to him, too, which is pretty depressing to watch her footprints walk up to her fucking death there. Jesus Christ, he pulls the body out, which is just fucking horrible. It's still got the pale pink pajamas on her body. There is 2 lead weights tied around her waist, and obviously half of her fucking head is missing. So, the highway patrolman on the scene said it didn't move him when he pulled her body out of the water or when he said that he'd put a shotgun to her head. It was as cold-blooded and premeditated as it could be. What pushed him to do it, none of us knew. Later on, when I put him in the squad car to take him to jail, I said, Mac, didn't you expect to get caught? And he said, not this quick. He showed no emotion, regret, or fear. It was like he was talking about shooting a sick dog.
That's just so sad, man.
So, yeah, he does this whole photo session, 20 minutes of taking pictures. I mean, he's like, showing them, he's pointing to things. He's like, we talked about what it was going to be like and friends, and then we went over here. He's acting like this is his moment to shine. It's super strange, man.
Does he know that he's in a lot of trouble?
He's not stupid, and he's in the presence of like 8 cops at this point, so he should. But then again, they haven't put the handcuffs on him yet.
Yeah.
He's walking around acting free like he's helping them out. I don't even know if he thinks he's getting arrested or not. I think he thinks they might go, well, she asked him to do it. I really think that's what he thinks at this point. So you can be smart and not worldly at the same time. I think that's kind of what having a high IQ doesn't mean you know shit about the world. So either way, he does this. He tells them she was cheerful and chatted about how happy she was going to be when she was dead. He's putting all this out in the press. So the press is recording all this and putting it out. So, he kept saying she was happy. She was going to end up in heaven, all this type of shit. He tells the reporters, I just stood there with the gun. So she gave me a kiss. Thank you, Mac. I'll always remember you for that. Then she said now, and he tells the exact thing. And he said she was dead like that and snapped his fingers again. So that's how he tells the story, because he said the same thing with the cops.
That's a very Texas thing. Like that.
Like that. So they said that another sheriff said that the gun, a pair of men's loafers, and the empty shell were found in Mac's home. And
he kept the shell.
He kept the shell, yeah. And the bloody boots that were found on the shore of the stock pond right where he left them. So not a very good... Don't leave your shoes at the murder scene, murderers. That's probably a bad way to go about it. If footprints are good to catch you, how about the whole shoe? Probably catch you that way. He said that the blood and other shit at the scene, all the viscera and everything like that was, he described that's the angle it all went at. And at no time was he in handcuffs during this entire thing, by the way.
What?
No time is he in handcuffs. So, the autopsy said that the blast totally destroyed her brain. And in all probability, the weapon was directly against the skin.
Oh, God.
She's there was no evidence of any kind of sexual, weirdness with the body pre or post mortem, and that she was not pregnant. They found out too, so that's good. So there we go. Now, the reaction of this is obviously they're perplexed more than anything. Normally it's shock and horror that we get. People freak out. People did that. These people are like, what now? Now, hold on a minute now. Wait a second. So she wanted him to shoot her? Like, they're all real confused. No one knows what to make of it. He was told, the cousin Shelley was told by his mother, came to school to tell him about it, that your cousin's dead. He says, I could not remember going back to the locker room after my mom left. I could not remember the drive home to our house. Next thing I was aware of was what I was doing at home was I was smashing the records that Betty and I often played when she came over. Take 5, Hello Mudda, Hello Mudda, Hello Fada. They're listening to. That's hilarious. Ray Charles sings country. Wow.
What?
I didn't know that album exists. Ray Charles sings country. I kind of want to hear that. Old school country, too. That'd be kind of cool. Goji Grant's The Wayward Wind. That was her song.
I wish he hadn't done this.
Fucking, yeah. He says
I wish
Betty's.
he kept all that. That matters to you,
he's
man.
smashing. Yeah, he smashed him. He was angry. He said, Betty's dead, I stammered. That couldn't be. Not that the thought of death and Betty were inseparable. She'd mentioned it frequently. She wanted to die, she said. This is the cousin now, too. Dying was preferable to life, especially in West Texas, she said. She tried to kill herself once before, once with 4 aspirin. She was not called Drama Mama just for being the star of 3 high school stage productions in her junior year. So everything was drama with Betty, he says, but every time she'd ever talked about death with me, as we sat in our family's 53 Oldsmobile out in front of my house or hers, every time we had ended up making out. What the fuck? She was dead. They killed her. Who are they? She's dead because we made out, I thought. That was a natural thought to me. Betty and I were Baptists. The cousin thought, because he's like 16, he figured she's dead because God is punishing her for making out with her cousin.
Yeah.
That's
Instead,
wild.
He goes and tells everybody. What?
Fuck, man.
She can't be happy about that, Shelton.
Yeah. So they arrest Mac, though. They have to arrest him. They put him in cuffs. They got to arrest him. At school, the press is at school, and one girl screams that she can't believe it, not Mac, and she screams and collapses in tears into her friend's arms. Yeah, not Mac. He couldn't have done that.
How about not her? God,
it's nope. One girl said, we were shocked that one of our own, a popular football player who had been to our parties and dated our friends, had committed a heinous crime. One woman said here, quote, as more information came out, we were shocked to learn that Mac and a lot of the other boys we knew had been spending time with Betty after they had taken their girlfriends home. That's when they started to find that out. And the girls were like, our boyfriends have all been fucking Betty? So girls would visit Mac at home now so they could boast of knowing him. I know that Mac guy who shot that girl. It was like a I'm cool type of thing. So classmates acted as if it was like some weird, tragic Shakespearean thing that couldn't be avoided. And nobody blamed him. Yeah, one guy said, quote, we were all supportive because we couldn't believe it. We figured that if Mac did it, there had to be a good reason. What?
I would like to go back to Mac shoots to dispatch, you guys.
Yes, let's start there.
Mac doesn't stop until it's dead, okay? Stop acting like he's such a nice person.
He put together a murder kit, Jimmie, and then drove this girl to his father's hunting grounds.
He was tired of seeing her limp around.
Yeah, that's crazy. I guess now's a good enough time to discuss it as what the fuck, basically.
Yeah.
I think she realized by this, but this is theory that who knows if it's true. It happened 60 years ago. I have no idea. But I feel like, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like maybe she fell into a groove of saying this someone kill me thing because that was like her shtick kind of a thing, right? And I don't know if she wanted to go through with it or not, or maybe she had suicidal ideations and maybe she didn't and she tried to harness them and joke about them like a comic would do maybe. I'm not sure. Yeah. But then the thing with Mac, do you think that she thought basically this is how I will get Mac back, to get him to talk me out of it and then make this some big breakthrough for our relationship? Do you think maybe that's what it was?
there's something to that because she certainly did not have enough suicidal ideations to go through with it, because 4 aspirin and then thinking about throwing herself 30 feet
and no one actually saw her do that. That's just that's what I mean.
You know what I mean? She's not doing
costing
anything.
the school money to fix the stage now. That's all that is.
Throwing herself 30 feet to her soreness. This isn't. She made no effort with
anything real
intention of injuring herself.
Absolutely.
You know? So I think Mac was mad enough that she cheated on him, and this is I really think he had every intention of killing her because he was so mad at her, and he thought he could get away with it because
he had
of this.
like an indemnifying note that he was like, well, I mean, she wrote a note.
Get away with it. Who cares?
I mean,
she
that's
said
fine.
I could do
Shit. Yeah, you just write that down. One girl who was a friend of Betty's said that she liked Betty, but she thought that Betty had some problems. She said she was a messed up girl, to Shelton here. She asked a bunch of us in PE to kill her. One girl, Andrea, feels just awful because she told Betty to stop asking us and just go do it yourself and leave us out of it.
Oh, my God.
But honestly, we didn't think she was serious, just over dramatic. And so the cousin says, what about Mac? How do you feel about that? And this girl said, he's a cold-blooded SOB. So she said that, everybody else, well, this girl said, I've always thought he was nuts. A girlfriend used to live on his block, and she told me that he'd roam the alleys shooting cats with a .22 rifle.
Yeah. He has utter disregard for life.
He had a strange sense of humor, and I thought he was just creepy. I didn't know him well, and I didn't want to know him well.
Yeah.
So
granted, this is post-murder, so
this
whatever.
Is post,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, but take that with a grain of salt. But even still, with the evidence and facts of it, the guy was mad.
Yeah.
Leave it there. You know what I mean?
In town, though, it becomes... That poor boy got that messed up girl, got that poor boy to do something. That poor boy. That's the town thing. Wow. One guy is overheard saying Shelton's father has the car wash that Roy Orbison comes into.
Yeah.
And he heard a guy at the car wash. This has nothing to do with Roy Orbison, but I was just connecting that. So one guy, he said, quote, my father overheard a customer say at his car wash, everyone knew that girl was no good. She tricked that boy into killing her.
Wow.
Yep. That was kind of the prevailing wisdom here. Yep. They said, who knows? One kid said, quote, I think Betty trapped herself in a real life drama of her own making. That I would believe. That's a good way to put it. She was ad-libbing all the way, and it spun out of her control. I remember a teacher taking me aside afterwards and asking me, was Betty pregnant? And I said, no, I wish it were that simple. It was a game of chicken, and she never backed out.
What a dick thing to say as a teacher.
Yeah.
Was she pregnant? You think
that must be what it is? Yeah.
She was going to lock him down.
I hear she's a whore. So that's what that says right there.
Well, kudos to her for, through everybody's words, banging so many people and not getting pregnant. She's great at managing pregnancy and unwanted ones. Good for her.
Yeah, no shit.
At 17,
Jesus.
That's incredible.
Wow. Holy fuck. So here's some notes she wrote to her friends around this time, too. She said, one note said, to whom it may concern, the time has come to leave, and as I prepare to go, I find it difficult to write the words that will explain. That's how she started that off. This is to different ones of her friends. A guy named Dick. I love you, Dick, which is a unfortunate choice of words.
It sure is.
For all that you have meant to me, you've been the greatest friend I could ever ask for. Here's to all the stories we never wrote. Maybe it's better that way. They'll never be exposed to the critics or the public. I hope our story about Jerry makes it. Think of me once in a while and know that I'm glad we met. Gail, I'm sorry about Indiana, but I hope you'll understand. Here's hoping that you'll always have the best because you're one of the best. I find the tears clouding my eyes as I say goodbye to those I love. May they forgive me. Then she says, Mr. Herring, you're a wonderful man. This is Mac. Yeah. So many times I've wanted to tell you how much I appreciate you. I'm sorry I have to tell you like this. But this is an earlier note from when she was thinking about killing herself and never did. So you can't. Right. And they were like, see, look, she's going to kill herself. But they're like, right, but the 3 months ago and now. Yeah.
Entirely different if she doesn't have him involved and she's apologizing and saying goodbye to him.
Yeah, that's what I mean. A local journalist said, quote, it looked to most people like a case that was impossible for the defendant to win. I mean, the defendant had admitted he kissed the girl, then blew her away, weighted her body down with lead, and buried it in a pond. What else did the state need? That sounds like a serial killer.
So cold.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. So he said, this one guy, he said, so I knew an attorney that ended up taking it, a guy named Warren Burnett. And he said, why the fuck would you take this case as a defense attorney? What's wrong with you? He said, quote, I asked Burnett why he would take it, and Burnett said, church ain't over till they sing.
Oh, my God.
That's a, wow, okay. So it's not over till it's over type of thing. So they said he was one of the best trial lawyers around, this Burnett guy. He's an ex-Marine who was the youngest prosecutor in Texas at the age of 25. And then he ended up going to the defense side. He's a real theatrical kind of a guy. Yeah. Big booming voice. And I'll tell you one of these.
Fuck,
like,
I love those.
He's got a real style. Yeah. And they said he would pepper his arguments with Shakespearean shit and scripture.
I think I've heard of this guy
in there. Maybe they saw a lot of these. That was the way to do it back then. They said that at that point he'd never had a client get sent to prison.
Really?
Yeah. In like the last 5 years, he's been practicing defense law.
Beat the rap every time.
Every time. Yeah.
Wow.
Back then, this is pre-DNA, your phone said you were right there, this is pre-anything, pre-blood test meaning anything. This is just whoever puts on a more presentable case, that's it. Right. You win. So the strategy here for Mac is temporary insanity.
Oh.
Now, listen to this legal strategy. The guy is brilliant, the defense lawyer. Under Texas law, if jurors find a defendant temporarily insane, that is insane only when he committed the crime, then you walk free. That means you don't even have to go to a mental hospital because you're fine now. You were just temporarily insane. That's how that worked. Right. Citing this statute, Burnett, the defense attorney, argued before the district judge that before any trial was to take place, jurors should first have to evaluate Mac's sanity at the time he pulled the trigger. If they determined that he'd been temporarily insane, then he shouldn't have to stand trial for murder. That's how it works. No one had ever done that. This is from an article. Burnett's line of reasoning flouted legal precedent. Sanity hearings are supposed to take up only the narrow question of whether the defendant is competent to stand trial, not whether that's what a trial's for, is to find out if he was temporarily insane. That's when evidence comes in. But to the astonishment of everybody over the strenuous objections of the prosecutor, the judge granted the pretrial hearing. The jurors are not going to determine his guilt or innocence. They'd only render a decision as to whether he'd been insane at the time of the crime.
Whether or not we can try him.
Yep. In effect, he'd have it's basically, but it's not a trial. So it's a pretrial acquittal.
Right.
So that's how it works.
That's amazing.
It's fucking insane. It's the wildest thing ever.
We don't want charges filed on this boy's good name if he was insane. So let's get these people let's get his neighbors to determine it.
Let's figure it out, buddy. Bring them on in. People his dad might know, just everybody. So the hearing takes place in Kermit, because that's where the body was found, which is like 45 miles west of Odessa. It's described as where the smell of petroleum hangs in the air. That's how it's described. So that's nice. They said the jury pool was the largest that had ever been called in this county, and the last murder to get such attention was a 1947 hotel stabbing. Winkler County, because that's where Kermit is. It's in Winkler, not Ector. The clerk, Virginia Healy, said it was a carnival. The defendant was a good-looking boy, and all these clean-cut girls came out of Odessa to ooh and ah over him. Max girls, we called them.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, they made up only a fraction of the spectators, but still they said everybody in the courtroom was on Mac's side except for Betty's parents. They sat there by themselves, crying as this happened, whereas everybody else was angry and, yelling, and it was a mess. So it's a lot. Arguing for the state is this guy named Dan Sullivan, who seems like a real dipshit, if I'm being honest with you. Mm-hmm. He had only prosecuted up to this point oil field thefts and DUIs. So he wasn't
we're going to get a guy that murdered a girl.
Yep. And there's a picture of him. He does this weird thing where he pushes up his jacket sleeves on his suit. but not like 80s style, like your jacket and your shirt up to the just his jacket, whereas his shirt sleeve is still down.
Sleeves exposed.
It's the dumbest looking thing I've ever seen. I saw a picture of it in the paper, and I was like, you dipshit. They said that's his trademark thing, that he pushes his suit sleeves up. I'm like, you look like a moron, sir.
It's a trademark because nobody does that because you look stupid.
Because it's dumb.
Why don't you pull your pant legs up over your knees, too?
Yeah, but keep your socks up.
Right.
So the judge's name in this case, Judge Lord.
Really?
Wow, that's something. Judge and Lord. Well, I guess you're in charge. So the big argument in the beginning is whether or not that her pajamas that she was wearing, the duster that she brought, and her shoe that was left behind, whether those would be introduced as evidence. How would they not be introduced as evidence? When have you ever seen or heard of a murder trial where what the fucking victim was wearing at the time of the murder wasn't entered into evidence and easily displayed? That is a they'll stipulate to that. They don't even fucking object to it. That's obviously you're going to allow that in. Why bother objecting? They said, no, we want that out. The defense said, we don't think that should be in there. This is crazy. The fucking defense also tried to keep the shotgun out of it. And
the murder weapon.
And the empty shell. And the lead weights and the rope and the pair of shoes that he left at the fucking site. All the physical evidence he tried to have thrown out. And they said, sure.
What?
Yeah.
How much do they believe in this case?
It's fucking crazy.
We don't even need evidence.
The judge was like, no problem. No, the judge said, yeah, get rid of it. You can't show her
how much
clothes.
He stands on the confession?
It's crazy. So the defense case, his parents, Mac's parents, testify. Mr. Herring said he was a happy boy before, always smiling. That old smile is missing. It's not there. It's not there. It's like he's trying to make up for the sorrow he's caused. Wow, that's pretty rehearsed. Then the mother, Mrs. Herring, said that since he's been home because he's out on bail, she found her son lying on the bed at their home a few days after the tragedy. She said, I went in and I laid down with him and I said, Mac, tell me about this. Tell me what happened. And he told me, Mother, it's just like a dream. And I said, did you do it? And he said, I must have. And I got down on my knees and put my arms around him, and he just told me over and over again, I just thought I had to do it. So, there you go. They introduce over the, Jesus Christ, they do introduce the I want everyone to know that what I'm about to do in no way implicates anyone else but Mac letter. That's a big deal. So no physical evidence, but we'll let this letter in.
Okay.
That's fine. So they do that. Now, the burden of proof here in this hearing falls on the defense to prove that he's insane. Because that's what the whole that's what this whole hearing's about. There's not anything else. So the hearing began with the defense, not the state. So it's a flip. So the first person they called is Mac's father. And like we said, he talked about all that kind of stuff. They talked about all this type of shit. They bring other people in. Multiple 9 character witnesses, including Odessa High's head football coach, teachers, students that are popular and well-respected and that sort of thing, all that sort of shit. The head football coach said he must have been temporarily insane because that boy's a good boy.
It's a good egg.
He's a good boy, I'll tell you something. So the defense then paraded 7 additional character witnesses in there, and it turned into a circus. It was just a zoo of people saying how wonderful he was. Kellis Turner, an Ector County commissioner and former principal of the high school, said he had known Mac for 15 years and watched him grow up into a fine boy.
Damn good boy.
Damn good boy. So he's, a politician, this guy. Mm-hmm. Another guy, a former football player with him, who's now attending Texas A&M on an athletic scholarship. Yeah. So he's as good as it gets down there. He said, he was my friend and still is. He's a good fella. Fine. This guy, by the way, the guy who went to Texas A&M, was also named most popular senior while he was there. And he said that most of the boys on the football team looked up to Mac. They looked up to him. He said, I'm sorry for the tragedy, but it didn't affect the friendship. I think he's got a good reputation still.
Unreal.
Wow. A substitute teacher also said that Mac is highly regarded by the faculty at the school and a good friend to lots of people. Then the defense brought in a bunch of people saying that Betty asked them to kill her.
Right.
Would you kill me? Would you kill me? Everybody. She said she wanted to die and she wanted someone to kill her. Another person, heaven must be a nice place. All these quotes from before, they're bringing them out now. But they also testified they didn't think that she was serious. So either way, one guy here, the Sellers guy, he said that I think Mac's a very, very fine boy, and I'm glad our son has a friend like him. They said they knew Mac as an honest boy, capable of trust. He said that Mac was the first boy I let my son go out with and use a gun without me being along.
Wow.
Y'all go out there and shoot some things. So, yeah, they said that she tried, and then they go on to her suicide attempts and all that sort of thing. Then they bring up Marvin Grice, who is a psychiatrist who examined Mac 3 days after the murder.
Oh, boy.
So he says that, obviously, Betty possessed a death wish here. Between the perfect storm of her death wish and Mac's temporary insanity, it was inevitable, basically. Had to happen. He said that he's on the witness stand. He said that that Mac was suffering from gross stress reaction at the time of the tragedy, is what he called it. He said that he questioned him 3 days after that, and he said, in my opinion, I was talking to him. At the time I was talking to him, he was sane. He said, but at the time, he doesn't think that he was sane. He says that, you might say that Miss Williams has become a witness for the defense with her note. He goes on to say all that sort of thing. He says he's basing his opinion on the letter written by Betty, his examinations of Mac, and conversations with the defense attorney. He said that he told the court that Mac was, quote, dethroned of his reasoning by persistent pleadings. Temporarily insane. Literally drove him crazy.
GSR is really, really powerful stuff. That gross stress reaction.
Wow. Dethroned of his reasoning.
Sometimes it does.
That's literally, she drove him crazy, and he finally did it. He said that he doesn't think that Mac knew what he was doing. It just built up until he lost contact with reality.
Ripped him off his high and mighty.
Yep. He said he became so mixed up and sick that he felt pulling the trigger was what he should do for her. He was deprived of the power of applying logic.
Whoa.
Are you kidding me? Are you fucking joking, asshole? That's fucking wild, man.
James, I'm going to be honest with you.
Fuck you, asshole.
No matter
that's
how
ridiculous.
many times you ask me, I'm never doing it for you.
And if you do, you wouldn't be crazy. You'd just be sick of hearing it.
I'd just be an asshole.
You can't kill someone for that. Yeah, an annoyed asshole. He said at that point, he said that the effects of this gross stress reaction were just a temporary thing, though, and, quote, he can be trusted now to lead a normal life.
GSR cleans right up as soon as you clear somebody's brains out of their skull.
It cleans right up, and I'd hire him in my office, no problem right now.
As long as you uncap a young girl, you'll be fine after that.
Oh, my God. Now, they also asked him, the doctor, the prosecution asked the doctor, would it be normal for a person who has a death wish to still discuss which college she was going to and where she was going to be in a year and make future plans?
Solid question.
Yeah, he said yes, that could happen. Doctor said absolutely.
Go fuck yourself.
That's wild. And they said, well, how much did you talk to him? He goes, oh, not very much. Didn't talk to Mac very much at all, the doctor says. And they said, well, did you treat him? And this doctor or psychiatrist said that he never gave Mac any treatment, and the additional information he received was based on his opinion and opinions of other high school students who had visited him in the past for emotional problems. So you put it all together, that's what you get. Wow. So the prosecution here is just, they got to be like, their heads are spinning. They're like, this is fucking wild, man. The judge denied their motion to have Mac evaluated by a psychiatrist for the state.
Oh, you can't do that.
The judge disallowed physical evidence and then said, no, your guy can't examine him. Only their doctor can examine. One opinion.
That's fucked.
That's fucked. They said that because they said that his current state of mind is irrelevant. So this doctor talked to him 3 days after the thing. That would be more relevant than now.
Now it's too late. Yeah.
It's too late now, rather than to see if he's full of shit and lying now. So see if he's just a malingering asshole. So the prosecution tried to establish jealousy as a motive by calling the guy she banged while Mac was away and all that sort of thing. Yeah. So he said that he had spurned Betty's advances when they were parked in a secluded spot. This is a different guy. He said that the incident had not much of an effect on Mac. This is a different guy named Bill, who was good friends with Mac, who found out about this. He said, we talked and agreed our friendship was more valuable than an argument about a girl. We shook hands and forgot the whole thing.
Okay.
So he said, bros before hoes, and they shook hands, and they were like, we're the first people to ever say that. We're going to be super annoying someday. Hey, want to shop at Affliction? I don't know what that is, but yes, for some reason. Let's go. So
matching tap-out shirts.
Want to do it? We should do it. They also focused on Howard Sellers, the one classmate, comment that Betty's dramatic note exempting to exonerate Mac had been conceived in a joking atmosphere. They're saying that note, he's like, I was fucking there when we wrote it. That wasn't her note to legally absolve him. We were fucking around, and she wrote this note of, he's a good guy. Don't blame him for it. This is all my fault. They were joking. That was just dark humor.
Wow.
And Mac took it, and then he's got a fucking get out of jail free car here. That's what they're saying. So they said that this is fucking crazy. The entire proceeding was a perversion of the law, the guy says.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Said the jury never heard facts the indictment read, never heard the indictment read or learned how the crime was committed. None of this came out. They didn't talk about the shotgun. It was just, you think he was crazy then or not? None of the details. It's fucking wild. So anyway, they bring him up there. Mac testified as well. And they said, what happened? Explain the moment that you killed Betty. And he said, I don't know. I can't remember. I can't explain. He said he has difficulty understanding it all himself. And he said, I've stayed awake at night trying to think so I could explain it to other people. Sometimes now I think it was a dream. Sometimes I think it was real. Sometimes I think I'm watching someone else.
Hey, guy, it was super real.
I'm like temporarily insane. It's super weird. But as soon as you say I am, I should be fine and go back to what I'm doing. It should be fine. So, yeah, he talked about that Betty would joke about it, but then he thought that she was, serious about it. And, he said, I know that everything about it is wrong. No shit. Mm-hmm. So the defense closed. The defense says this. This is the defense's closing argument here to the jury. Quote, we have before us a simple but tragic matter.
Yeah.
A disturbed and confused young woman with a death wish prevailed upon a young man who had once been her boyfriend to do her bidding by taking her life. In her own words, we heard the girl exonerate the young man from her death. Should he have done so? Of course not. Would he ever do such a thing again? Again, of course not. But a distinguished psychiatrist has explained to us how Mac Herring, operating under this great pressure, lost his ability to reason when confronted with this ultimate appeal. This was not a normal request. It was not under normal circumstances. The incredible pressure of this extraordinary request got to the young man. He was not thinking clearly or properly. Well, that's fucking obvious.
Obviously, yeah.
Wow. But he was also not thinking about himself. He had nothing to hide, nothing to cover up. That's funny. Why did he lie to the fucking cops then at first?
Good point, yeah.
He should have drove right to the police station and said, this girl just made me kill her because she wanted to kill herself, and I feel terrible. Let's go get her out of the water. That's what a normal person would do.
A normal person would have shot her and then been like, oh my God, what have I done?
And then sobbed.
You don't put her in the fucking water.
Well, might as well tie some weights around her with this rope I brought. That's crazy.
Take my clothes off and wait out 20 feet. What are you talking about?
He had no anger or malice of forethought except for packing a murder kit. He simply wanted to help his former girlfriend unburden herself from all the stresses in her young life. As Dr. Grice told you sitting right here in this witness chair, young people often crack under this kind of pressure. It's just too much. They can no longer think clearly. Soldiers, policemen, and other adults sometimes even crack under this pressure. It's called gross stress disorder.
No, it's not.
If our finest citizens can yield to this disorder, who are we to say that a teenager cannot? He couldn't help it. If our finest citizens can at once crack but then recover to live perfectly normal lives, who are we to say this teenager cannot? Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to be asked a single question. Was the defendant capable of telling right from wrong? That's it. That's his closing.
Okay. Oh, because that's his whole shtick. That's why he wants all the evidence taken out, because the evidence proves, fuck yeah.
Yeah, the evidence is pretty bad. It looks bad.
Yeah.
Now, while the prosecution's doing his thing, which is whatever, it's exactly what you'd expect the prosecutor to say.
It's beautiful.
Burnett has a strategy so the jury doesn't even look at him, basically. He lights a cigarette as this guy starts to do his thing. Burnett lights a cigarette as the prosecutor goes up, right? He lets the ash on the cigarette grow. He doesn't flick the ash. You know how distracting a long ash on a cigarette is to people?
Yeah.
The whole jury is staring at him by the end of it. What he does is he puts a fucking paper clip into the cigarette to hold the ash in place so it won't fall. Those are his court cigarettes that he uses when the other side is doing a closing.
Does it on purpose.
He does it on purpose, and he'll chain smoke till they go all the way down with the jury staring at him the whole fucking time.
Wow.
That's what he did, which is pretty wild. Yeah, but it's showmanship, I guess. But without DNA and fucking blood typing and cameras and phones, without all this shit, that was considered a reasonable way to defend a client because it's all in this weird showmanship. So the prosecutor closes out by saying, was this out of jealousy, resentment, or even fear for his actions that he tried to hide it? We cannot be absolutely certain. But the defense was asked to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that Mac Herring did not know right from wrong. Note that the standard here is not whether he possibly did not know what he was doing, but that from an overwhelming body of evidence, is it absolutely certain that he didn't know what he was doing? Mm-hmm. So they said that, the doctor said that he was badgered into undertaking this killing and that he was suffering from something called gross stress disorder. Before 3 days ago, I'd never heard of such a thing, and perhaps you haven't either. But let's take this doctor's word for it. Gross stress disorder is a real thing, he says. But does this make sense that this girl was able to generate this amount of stress in only 11 minutes of talking?
Right.
Broke this kid's brain to the point of that. And sometimes with other people around, it doesn't make sense to me, and I'm sure it doesn't make sense to you. The true nature of this matter needs to be determined in trial. Justice demands that we get to the bottom of this whole event. I'm certain that we have more to learn, and I will dedicate myself to uncovering even more of this mystery before that trial occurs. But as far as these proceedings are concerned, look at the evidence. There was a plan, and that plan was carried out exactly. Mac Herring's behavior was calculated, efficient, and most of all, rational. You have to find that he was sane when he killed Betty Williams. There's really no other explanation for his behavior. So, jury goes in for 11 hours.
Oh, my God.
In the middle of it, they ask that they get the psychiatrist's testimony read back to them to make sure they know what they're talking about. So they come back with a verdict of, you, sir, were temporarily insane during this act.
My God.
We're real sorry about that. You should ask your dad to stop for ice cream on the way home because you've been through a lot. That's basically what they said.
Stop it.
No, I'm shit you not. You're good.
They bought GSD. They think that's a real thing.
That's fucking cause you to kill a girl every time.
Said it. Yeah.
The reaction to this, Betty's cousin said, quote, I don't take well to the fact that people don't think this is an important story. He said, I don't believe that Betty ever wanted to die. So he said, when her father lived with my parents, he used to threaten to kill himself in the middle of the night. My mother would sit up with him and try to talk him out of it until he did it one too many times. Then she told him to just go ahead and do it, which he didn't. When Betty said that life wasn't worth living without Mac, I understood it within the context of our family. Said everybody was dramatic, always saying they were going to throw themselves off a bridge.
She just needed a kiss from her cousin and it was fine.
They're all this Italian people are like this. Even you watch The Sopranos, oh, God, take me now. That's how they all are. You're like, oh, and all the kids roll their eyes. They know grandma's not going to go off themselves, but they beg for death on a daily basis. So he says, no other event in my life impacted me the way this did. Everything looked different to me afterward. Betty had been murdered, and everybody wanted to sweep it under the rug and make it go away. He said that people were talking shit about her, One guy here, this is one of her friends said that I overheard a juror talking about Betty. I remember her saying in a very ugly way, that girl was nothing. She's just white. She's just trash. Man. She's just a trashy, hoary girl. No, she's nothing. To some observers, it seemed as if Betty's transgressions had eclipsed those of the teenager who killed her. Nobody talked about how Mac could have said no, who's one of her friends named Sandra, said Betty had enlisted him, this worthy young man, to do what she didn't have the courage to do herself. She had roped him into doing it, in quotes. So she became not the victim but the villain. And that's how everybody did. So the state appeals this, saying that basically the judge did not have the authority to grant a hearing that only evaluated sanity at the time of the crime because it had never been done before. And basically they say, well, go after him again then. Try again, motherfucker. Mm-hmm. So they have a second one here, a second insanity hearing.
What?
They're allowed to do it again. Again. This time, change of venue. It's moved 600 miles away to Beaumont, Texas.
Oh, boy.
And this will be quick here. They bring out all of the teachers again. They really get it this time. His character witnesses are lined up. Howard Sellers said that Mac was his idol.
Wow.
And, quote, personified everything that was good. Yeah. It's fucking wild. The state tried to play a dumb shit thing here, too. They at first tried to they didn't want to stipulate that the letter that she wrote was really from her. They wouldn't stipulate that. They had to have handwriting experts come in and line it up. They made the defense prove it, basically, when they already accepted it in the first trial. So that's stupid.
She wrote it, right.
They know she wrote it, but that's the only thing that gets him off. Without that, he's fucked. So Burnett, again, in his closing here, he said that nearly 2 years after the murder, the prosecution has still not established a motive. Does the evidence show you any possible explanation? He said, until some evidence is brought to show you the psychiatrists were wrong, I'd be inclined to believe them.
Okay.
Verdicts come in. This is 12 days before Christmas here. 1963. They find Mac, here we go, not guilty by reason of insanity.
Oh, my God.
Not guilty. Applause breaks out in the courtroom.
What?
Oh,
the
yeah.
Poor boy's been tortured, James.
He's been Mac he's mobbed by, this is how that article put it, Mac was mobbed by jubilant supporters.
Unbelievable.
Like he just kicked the game-winning field goal in the Super Bowl. It is pretty fucking crazy. He was up for the electric chair, and now he's a free man. So what do you do after you're accused of murder and you know that everybody knows you at least blew half this girl's brains out, whether she wanted it or not?
Disneyland?
You go the fuck away, I would think. Yeah. He says, I'm going to stay around here.
Running for office.
I'm good. He attends Texas Tech University.
What?
Where at one point he's introduced to a class as, quote, the famous Mac Herring. Yeah, he got pussy from this, Jimmy.
For sure.
He did.
Yeah.
He then, after school, returned back home to Odessa. Nobody gave him any shit. Led a completely normal life. Never got arrested. Never got in any trouble. He was married and divorced twice. He worked as a dock foreman at a chemical company, a carpenter, a welder, and also, finally, an electrician like his dad here. Few of the people still kept up with him and saw him. Other people moved away. That sort of thing here. One reporter says, quote, I caught sight of him one afternoon in November as he pulled up to his house, a mint green frame house not far from where he grew up. Yeah. His own neighborhood lacks the gracious lawns and spreading trees of his childhood. The house, which is a bit down at the heels, looks like the province of a man who lives alone.
He lives a depressing life.
He eats fucking Salisbury steak frozen dinners at least
Loves
4
it.
times a week.
Loves it.
A meager yard of packed dirt and weeds led to the street, and an old rusted pickup sat in the driveway. Mac, who declined to be interviewed, looked indistinguishable from any other working man in Odessa, right down to his beat-up truck with toolbox in the bed. Nothing suggested that he had been the sharply handsome or held a great deal of promise. At 62, he was utterly unremarkable. Man, his friend Larry Francel, again, he comes back. He says, this has not been a free ride for Mac. Of course not. It's ruined 2 lives. One's dead, one's still alive. And because many of the people in town don't want to hear this shit, he said that I would suspect that most of us would rather let the thing stay in the past. And they said there was already enough pain in 61.
Maybe he shouldn't have shot a girl.
That's a thing. Now, the legends here. There's a Odessa college student named Sammy Sanchez who was researching a paper that she had to present to her speech class on the best place to spend Halloween, received permission to spend the night in the high school's auditorium, Odessa High School. When I met this is from the article. When I met Sanchez and 3 of her girlfriends a few weeks later, they told me in great detail about all the strange and unexplained things that they had heard and seen. The door that mysteriously slammed closed behind them, the eerie footsteps, the stage lights that had moved when they called out Betty's name. After 2 hours in the auditorium, Sanchez and her friends were so unnerved and so certain they had felt Betty's presence that they decided to leave. But first they did what they assumed any drama girl, spectral or not, would have wanted. We let Betty know she was the star. We sat there in the seats in the theater in the dark, and we applauded for her.
Oh, my God.
The kids, what they'll do is, this is from that article from Texas Monthly, quote, when football season ended, there was nothing much to do on Friday nights except drink beer, obviously, and stare up at the wide open sky. Teenagers used to park their cars and pickups across the street from Odessa High School and wait to see the ghost called Betty. According to legend, she would appear at the windows of the school auditorium at midnight. It's all in the auditorium, all the hauntings.
If my spirit was extinguished at a lake 30 miles away, I'd likely find my way back to school.
That's where she wants to be. She liked the theater. So, yeah, she could have been on Broadway haunting something, but no.
Right.
They said that provided students flashed their headlights 3 times or honked their horn and called out her name. The real Betty, it was said, had attended Odessa High School decades before and acted in a number of plays on the auditorium stage. But the facts of her death had been muddled with time, and each story was as apocryphal as the last. She fell off a ladder in the auditorium and broke her neck. She had hanged herself in the theater. Her boyfriend, who was a varsity football player, had shot her on stage during a play. These are all the legends. So they said many teenagers, so many of them made the late-night pilgrimage to see Betty, that the high school finally had to paint over the windows of the auditorium because it was just, that's all that was out there every fucking night was these people doing this for 40 years.
Honking horns and flashing lights for 40 years.
They didn't paint over it till 2007.
Wow.
So it was that long. They said students still talk of a presence in the auditorium, but the stories, they never went away. They said that there's flickering lights, noises that can't be explained, to objects that appear to move on their own. Some claim to have seen her pacing the balcony or heard her footsteps behind them, only to find no one there. They said that rumors have flourished that a coach who knew the real Betty is visited by her on occasion in the field house, and that a former vice principal who once caught a glimpse of her after hours was so spooked by the encounter that he refused to be in the school by himself again. The theater arts teacher says in 2015, quote, I hear her name on a daily basis. Whenever something unexplained happens, a book falls on the floor in my classroom or the light board goes out during a technical rehearsal, someone always says, it's Betty. So, yeah, that's become crazy. It's obviously a ghost story, clearly, but they said that the notoriety of the case has faded, but they said that who's this? Oh, the guy Ronnie White, not Ron White, it's a Texas guy named Ronnie, graduated from Odessa the year the murders took place. The murder took place. He returned to teach history in 1978, and he was astonished to hear students talking about fucking Betty, whose spirit haunted the auditorium and the popular football player who had a hand in her killing. He said, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I thought, good Lord, they must be talking about Betty Williams.
Yeah.
Like I knew that chick. January 5th, 2019, Mac Herring dies at age 75.
Really?
Yep, finally. So there you go, everybody.
Did a friend do it for him?
Hopefully a friend put him out of his fucking misery. I don't know. That, everybody, is Odessa, Texas, and a hell of a story. And I'm all for assisted suicide. If it's for someone who's sick or someone who's 96 and can't move, or that's fine.
Here's
not when they're 17 and healthy.
Right.
And a
Give
little
this
sad.
girl 4 years and things are going to be fine.
Get her in college. It's a whole new world. Get her in New York or wherever the fuck, in Dallas. I don't know, somewhere
Get her
else.
the
Just
fuck out of Odessa.
That's it. So there it is, everybody. Odessa, Texas. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did enjoy that, tell the world about it. Get on Apple Podcasts or whatever app you're listening on. Give us 5 stars. Say something nice because it helps drive us up the charts. Not for our ego, just for business. Also, head over to shutupandgivememurder.com where you can get all of your merchandise, tickets to live shows, which the new round of live shows will be going on sale very soon here. So get your tickets for those when they come out. We can't wait for that. Also, you can find the links to all the social media. Follow us. We're at Murder Small on Twitter, at Small Town Pod on Facebook, at Small Town Murder on Instagram.
Right.
Follow all of that. Patreon.com.
Oh, boy.
/crime and sports is where you get all of the good stuff. And this week is no different. Anybody, $5 a month or more, do whatever you want. You get access to not only the whole back catalog of bonus episodes, which is like 150 of them to binge, but on top of that, you're also going to get new episodes every other week, 2 of them, as a matter of fact. One crime and sports, one small town murder. You will have access to it all, of course. And this week, what we're going to talk about for crime and sports, we're going to talk about, we did in this one episode, there was a bunch, it was an old-timey athlete from 1902 or something. So we found a bunch of these weird ads in this newspaper that were just ads for crazy medical devices that have been debunked like 2 months after this ad was out.
Right.
Crazy ads. We're going to talk about these and some really weird sports headlines that aren't normal and just what it was like to live in 1901 and read a newspaper is basically what it's going to be here. Really fun shit. Trust us on this. It'll be good. Yes. And then for Small Town Murder, we are doing what we have to do every once in a while. It's not up to us when they end their season. When they end their season, we do the show. We're going to talk all about this season of Love After Lockup. Yeah. It was a long, juicy, crazy one. Holy shit. So we cannot wait to get into that. That is patreon.com/crimeinsports. And in addition to that, you are getting a shout out.
Yes.
And our undying affection, obviously. But you're going to get a shout out here. As a matter of fact, you're going to get it right now. Jimmie, God damn it, hit me with it. Don't shoot me, though. I'm telling you right now. Please don't shoot me, but hit me with the list of the greatest fucking people on this earth. Hit me with them now.
This week's executive producers are Jeremiah Gruther, Linda Heithoff-Borman, Nicole Sadia, Carol Elizabeth, Caitlin Waller, and JB and Yeti Shetty in Canada. Thank you guys so much for what you do. Other producers this week are Caitlin Smith, Smith Cumstein, Herman M. and the guys at the Parlor, Peyton Meadows, Barry Lester and the Smellsteins, Susanna Platt, Eros Whiskey and Tequila at Centeno Kennels in Ontario, Canada, Callie Cannoli, I think, Andrew Harper, Sarah Short, Janice Hill, Christine Babel, Lauren Demarath, Sharon Moore, Scott Francis, nope, that's Stephen Francis, Scott Strauff, Reed McGuire, Wisconsin Werewolf, Tyler Mitchell, Christina Furl, I think, Holly Dennis, Amanda Viveros, Tyler Barnes, Leonard Daviduck, David Duke, I'll bet that's what it is, Morgan Taylor, no. Emily Drew, Crystal Kemp, Stone Edwards, James Wallard, Tina Lisicki, Robert Thompson, Heidi Edgett, Sierra Murray, Naomi Stafford, John Gilmore, Michael Pulley, Jessica Wallace, Larry Kreiderman, that's Kate Hodges, Kira Dishian, Abra Smith, Savannah Smith, Tyler Hall, Bazingler, and Andy Crawford, Nancy Pacholi Perazzi, Origins Unknown 088, Emily R, Vicky Christensen, Sean Lambert, Lisa Shiambi, Kayla Corona, Daniel Stinson, Christina with no last name, Gemma Rose, Raquel Rutt, Carlsdoder, Tiffany Crick, DC Huey, Wade with no last name, Mary Van Ziepel, Mike Garza, Samantha Quintana, Eric Hansman, Paul Ward, Danny Palmer, Mitchell Noland, Curtis Brown, Catherine Harvey, Mara Holmes, Angela Guthrie, Andy with no last name, Brittany Reardon, Tim Glowacki, Thomas Welch, Heather with no last name, J.M. Allstott, Nathan Spicer, Ivy Tudor, Matt Jansen, Wishes, Nakuoma, Andy with no last name, Lizette Rolden, Andy, I said that, CJ Marie, Tracy Marshall, Colin with no last name, David Bain, Terry Presley, Jim Winan II, Kelly Smith, Ricewin Reese, maybe, Wynn Perry, Maya Gibbons, Pamela.
What the fuck does that mean?
Pamela Landry, Paco with no last name, Jenny Vanderbilt, Jonathan Buckley, Emily with no last name, Lisa with no last name, Christopher Bose, Vilsack, Ganja Ed, Sergeant Case, Josh Reynolds, Kendall Reynolds, Kendall Sangster, Valerie Phelan, Des Kesey, PRFR, Amy Collins, Andrew Novak, Becky Sesser. Oh, you sex
her up.
Sarah Rabin, Snagatron Snugtra, Camille Wilcox, Allison with no last name, Jennifer Reiterman, Chris Bede, Christian Hammonds, Sam Brocky, Keeds with no last name, Michaela Harvey, Jamie with no last name, Jared Clark, Kristen Weimer, Dimery, Chris Buchner, David Mason, Jamie Lane Brosnan, Grace Luterick, Brandy Ellsworth, Raymond Rodriguez, Emily Hove, Jenny with no last name, Rosie Cranwell, Franklin Hines, Dana Horn, Lauren with no last name, Julie Von Barron, David with no last name, T.S. Champ for you, James. I don't know what that means. Daniel Lee Coleman, Heidi Mueller, Kendall Brooks, Brandon Floyd, Moya Nasajama, Sterling Bryan, Elizabeth, no last name, Randy Armour, Chris Stamp, Macarega, Dick the Cock Johnson, Jenny McGuire, Michael Shook, Justin Vincente, Kimmy S, Caleb Cyphers, Sam Terry, Vanessa Finethi, Osmond J. Ori, G with no last name, Jen Grima, Molly Nordenstam, Greg Madison, Tyler Musso, Nicole Hall, Levi Randolph, MJ Brickley, Kimberly Croshaw, Wes Baldwin, Keaton, I as well, Miranda Stevens, William Flynn, Rachel Failer, Elizabeth Brady, Jesse Hay, Micharisto, Jess Collins, Chelsea Osario, Anthony Breedlove, Blake Elam, Jessica Akahaven Rubin, Oki with no last name, Okai maybe, Jeremy Hewlett, Shuggy Warren, Alicia Lemereau, Anastasia Morganello, Claire Montgomery, Michael Hoff, Abby Lawrence, Patrick Berg, Riley Bird, Sarah Lombardi, Soulless Joe, Dalton Baker, Megan Giselle, Robert Hoysingadoton.
Yeah.
Elaine Davis, Jamie Soledad, John Siebenaller, Randy Hall, Sarah Russell, Leslie with no last name, Courtney Martinez, Led MFing Lawless, Christina Bendanji, Selena Mason Handy, Mike with no last name, Sonia Maines, Trent Hall, Lindsay Ruiz. Luis Rodriguez? What? It's Lindsay Ruiz. Jamie Dean, Andy Gish, Weston Anderson, Lexi with no last name, Natalie Galatine, Mule Handcock. Oh, boy. Derek Tuttle, Angela Williams, Blue Gatorade, Melissa Schenkel, Allie with no last name, Harley McGee, Brandy Groven, Carl Klingelbeal, Katie Head, Jana Kavanaugh, Emily Willett, Jeffrey Hardesty, Ed Payne, Frank Brown, Angela Davis, Erica Tilley, Liz Colson, Jill Reiser, and Jay Lizotte. Thank you, guys, and all of our patrons. You're amazing.
Thank you, everybody, so much. From the bottom of our hearts, we cannot tell you and express to you how thankful we are for all that you do for us. Right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you want to get a hold of us on social media individually, very easy to do that. Just head over to shutupandgivememurder.com. There's links that lead to all of it. You can find both of us there. Yes. Or just Google search Small Town Murder Podcast Host. We're the only fucking ones. So there you go. That sounds good. Thank you so much for joining us. We will be going on, well, who knows, till the end of time. So come back and join us again. And until next week, everybody, it's been our pleasure.
Get therapy. Bye.
If you like Small Town Murder, you can listen early and ad-free now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Apple Podcasts. Prime members can listen early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Before you go, tell us about yourself by filling out a short survey at Wondery.com/survey.
He was hip-hop's biggest mogul, the man who redefined fame, fortune, and the music industry.
The first male rapper to be honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Sean Diddy Combs.
Diddy built an empire and lived a life most people only dream about.
Everybody know ain't no party like a Diddy party, so.
Yeah, that's what's up.
But just as quickly as his empire rose, it came crashing down.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution.
I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I made no excuses. I'm disgusted. I'm so sorry.
Until you're wearing an orange jumpsuit, it's not real. Now it's real.
From his meteoric rise to his shocking fall from grace, from law and crime, this is the rise and fall of Diddy. Listen to the rise and fall of Diddy exclusively with Wondery Plus